Sometimes the worst hurts are when we see bad things happen to folks and don't lift a finger. Sometimes not speaking up is what we hate most about ourselves later. Back in the summer of 1873, this young lady showed up in Silver Ridge and got treated like dirt. The widow called her a slave. The whole town bought into it. For 6 months, she cleaned floors and put up with every mean word without snapping back. But this guy from the mountains named Caleb Stone was paying attention. He spotted stuff no one else did. When a letter with a gold seal dropped out of her apron, things flipped upside down. That letter had a secret that would shake up the entire town. What was inside that letter? Hold up before we keep going? Let us know where you're listening from. And if this tale hits home for you, hit that subscribe button, 'cause tomorrow I've got a real treat lined up. Silver Ridge was tucked in a valley where mountains bumped into the high desert. It started as a mining spot but grew into a real town. By 1873, the silver was mostly gone, but a few rich families kept things going. Main Street cut straight through like a bullet, with fake front buildings pretending to be fancier than they were. There was the general store, the bar, the land office, the church with its white pointy top. All the normal stuff for folks pushing west. But Silver Ridge had extra spice that made it different from other rough towns trying to get steady. It had Ellelanena Hartwell. She ran the town like some ladies run a tea party, deciding who sat where and who talked when. But Ellelanena's control went way past polite chit-chat. She owned the biggest ranch around, owned water rights to 3 key streams, and had loans out on half the shops in town. When Ellelanena Hartwell strolled down Main Street, guys tipped their hats, and ladies nodded real careful, not 'cause they liked her, 'cause they were scared of what she could snatch away. Ellelanena was a good-looking lady in her early 50s, tall and straight with silver streaks in her dark hair that she twisted up fancy. She wore the best clothes shipped from San Francisco, always in rich shades like deep red, dark green, super blue, that screamed money and boss vibes. She carried a wooden cane with a silver top, not 'cause she limped, but 'cause it made a cool thump on the wooden walks when she wanted eyes on her. That cane turned into her power symbol, just like the Hartwell mark on cows. The Hartwell place was 2 miles out of town, a big house made of rocks and wood that Thomas Hartwell put up over 20 years. Thomas was a whole different guy from his widow. Folks remembered him as fair and kind, always ready to lend a hand and slow to get mad. He made his money the hard, honest way, and people respected him in a way Ellelanena never got. When Thomas dropped dead sudden like 6 months ago, the town really felt sad. When Ellelanena grabbed the ranch and all Thomas made, folks felt uneasy, but nobody said it out loud. The ranch house showed Thomas's style more than Ellelanena's. It was strong and built good. Made for cozy living, not showing off. Big porches wrapped 3 sides, giving shade in hot times and cover from winter blasts. The main room had a rock fireplace big enough to cook a whole pig, and the chairs were heavy and useful, but Ellelanena was switching stuff up. She'd got new wallpaper from back east, swapped plain curtains for fancy velvet ones, and crammed rooms with fragile stuff that might snap if you sat wrong. The ranch had a dozen workers handling cows and fixing the land. There was also a tiny crew for the house, a cook, a housekeeper, and the girl, Sarah. Nobody in Silver Ridge knew her full name. Ellelanena just called her the girl or my maid when she even noticed her. Most times Ellelanena talked about her like she wasn't there, even if Sarah was right in the room. "Tell the girl to get my shawl." "Did the girl do the laundry?" "Make sure the girl doesn't mess up dinner." Sarah showed up at the Hartwell Ranch right before Thomas died. One day she wasn't around, next day she was. A quiet young lady with dark hair and gray eyes who slipped through the house like a ghost. She seemed early 20s, but hard to say for sure. She wore plain gray dresses that hung loose on her thin body, and her hair was in a tight bun that didn't make her look pretty. Her hands were rough from chores. Her skin looked worn even though she was young. But something about her didn't match up. Maybe how she walked, or how she stood tall, even scrubbing floors. She had a quiet way that wasn't like someone totally beat down. When she thought nobody saw, her eyes looked far off, like she was miles from Silver Ridge and the Hartwell Ranch. Elelonena treated her mean in a lazy way that got worse after Thomas died. She dumped more chores on Sarah, picked at every little thing she did, and talked to her like trash, making the other help feel awkward. The cook, a Mexican lady named Rosa who'd worked for Thomas 15 years, snuck Sarah extra bites when Elelonena wasn't looking. The housekeeper, Mrs. Chen, sometimes pitched in with heavy stuff, but neither lady dared complain about Elelenena's ways. They had kin to feed and no other jobs in Silver Ridge. Folks in town gossiped about Sarah, sure. Some said she was a far-off family Elelonena took in out of kindness. Others said she was an orphan from East, sent west by some church thing. A few whispered darker stuff, like maybe she was a kept lady or had a bad past Elelonena used against her. But nobody knew for real, and nobody asked Elelonena straight up. Caleb Stone had been at the Hartwell Ranch for 3 months when summer hit. He was a mountain guy by heart and job, the type who liked trees and deer better than people and their messes. He'd come down from his trap spots up high, 'cause he needed cash to stock up before winter. Thomas Hartwell gave him a job fixing the land's edges, patching fences, clearing dead trees, keeping the line huts good. It was lone work that fit Caleb just right. He was a guy in his late 30s, beat by sun and wind and tough life, tall and skinny, with dark hair to his shoulders and a short beard. His eyes were light blue like winter sky, sharp and watchful, missing zilch. He wore leather and wool, clothes for use, not looks, and he moved with the sure quiet of a guy who'd lived through stuff that'd kill softer folks. He'd been a scout in the army during the war, but he didn't chat about it. After the big end, he'd gone west and up high, hunting something he couldn't name. Peace, maybe, or just space from what he'd seen and done. Caleb knew Thomas Hartwell a bit, enough to respect him. When Thomas offered work, Caleb took it, 'cause pay was fair and Thomas didn't pry about pasts. They'd talked a few times about mountains and land, both guys liking that the other got why quiet was gold. Thomas's quick death bugged Caleb. The guy seemed healthy and it hit with no warning. One day Thomas rode his land checking cows. 3 days later, dead from what the doc called gut trouble. They buried him on a hill looking over the ranch. Half the area showed for the funeral. Elelonena wore black silk and cried just right. But Caleb watched her by the grave and saw something off. She looked like she wanted it over, like the burial was bugging her plans. And when the last folks left, she headed to the house without glancing back at her hubby's grave. Caleb thought about leaving after Thomas died. He didn't like Elelonena Hartwell much, and working for her felt wrong. But something kept him. Maybe loyalty to Thomas's ghost. Maybe the pay for another winter. Or maybe something else he hadn't owned up to yet. He first spotted Sarah a few days after the funeral. He'd come from the fields for a new axe handle from the shed, and saw her hanging clothes in the yard behind the big house. Elelonena stood on the back porch, her cane tapping the rail as she griped about every sheet Sarah hung. Too much water squeezed out, not enough. Hung crooked, sloppy with pins. Sarah kept working steady through the complaints, her face blank, her moves careful and exact, but Caleb saw her hands shake a tad as she grabbed another pin. And when Elelonena finally went inside, Sarah stood real still for a bit, head down, shoulders tight with stress she couldn't let go. That's when Caleb first wondered who she really was. 'Cause how she stood in the yard, how she pulled herself together before more work, that wasn't a servant okay with her spot. That was someone putting up with wrong stuff, waiting for a shift. In the weeks after, Caleb caught himself watching Sarah more than he should. Not in a bad way, but like a puzzle he couldn't crack. He noticed things. How she moved in the house with smarts that said school and class, not slave work. How she sometimes stopped at the ranch book room door, eyeing the books with a want that said she could read 'em, and read 'em good. How she talked to horses in the barn, her voice soft and fancy, using words no regular help would know. And he noticed Elelonena's treatment, the lazy slaps for made-up wrongs, the shaming in front of staff, how Elelena seemed to enjoy breaking Sarah down, like it was a personal win. It ate at Caleb. He'd seen mean stuff before in war, on the edge where nice rules fade, but Elelena's ways with Sarah were extra ugly. It felt personal, a special hate beyond a mean boss with a bad worker. One night in late June, Caleb worked late fixing a pen fence when he heard talk from the barn. He snuck over quiet. Old scout tricks stuck, and stopped in shadows when he saw Sarah inside chatting to a horse. "There now. Steady," she said, low and calming. "I know it hurts, but we'll get that rock out and you'll be okay." She bent over the horse's foot, working careful to pull a stuck pebble, making it limp. Father always said a good horse person cares for animals first, self second. He was right about that, at least. Father. The word grabbed Caleb. How she said it had love and loss. This wasn't some orphan with no folks. This was someone's kid, raised with care and heart. Then Elelena's voice sliced the air like a whip. "What are you doing here, girl? I told you to get my bath ready an hour ago." Sarah stood quick, the horse's foot dropping to the straw floor. "Sorry, ma'am. The gelding was lame. I thought you're not paid to think." Elelena stepped in the barn, her cane clicking the wood floor. "You're paid to do what I say. Nothing else." "Yes, ma'am." Sarah's voice went flat, empty. "Look at me when I talk." Sarah raised her eyes, and even from shadows, Caleb saw the blank look. Not giving in, holding back. The kind from knowing real feelings would make it worse. Elelena eyed her long, then smiled. Not a nice smile. "Your hands are dirty. Wash 'em before touching stuff in my house. And if my bath ain't ready in 10 minutes, no supper again." "Yes, ma'am." Elelena left, and Sarah stood in the barn for beats, her dirty hands tight at sides, breathing slow and on purpose. Then she bent to the horse, finished the rock quick and good, and walked out with head up. Caleb stepped from shadows after she left, checking the horse she fixed. The animal was Thomas's fave, a solid gelding with years left. Someone horse smart had done right, someone taught good. That night Caleb decided he couldn't ignore Hartwell Ranch stuff. Whatever Sarah's tale, whatever brought her here under Elelena's thumb, it wasn't fair. Thomas Hartwell wouldn't take it, and Caleb couldn't either. He didn't know what to do yet. He was just hired help on another man's, another woman's land. No power, no spot, no right to butt in Elelena Hartwell's stuff. But he'd spent too many years looking past troubling things, doing orders without ask, following commands to pain he couldn't stop. He was older now, free from army bosses and town laws in ways before. And if one good thing from rough mountain life with just your thoughts, it's learning to hear your thoughts say. His thoughts said something was real wrong at Hartwell Ranch, and the quiet young lady with gray eyes and rough hands was in the middle. Caleb stood in the barn door that night, watching sun drop behind West Mountains, and promised himself he'd find who Sarah really was. He'd learn Elelena's hold on her, and if he could fix it, he would. Some things he'd learned were worth the danger, worth the price, worth standing for, even if quiet was easier. This, he figured, was gonna be one. The first Saturday in July started hot and clear, the kind making mountains fuzzy far off and Main Street a dust stream. It was market day in Silver Ridge when ranch folks came for stuff and walks filled with weekly deals. Caleb rode in with a list from the boss: nails, rope, lamp oil, and a new file for the smith's tools. He planned quick errands and back to the high shack he'd worked all week, but Elelena Hartwell had other ideas. She rolled into town mid-morning in her black ride driven by Dutch, her boss. Dutch was a thick guy with a face like old leather and eyes with no nice. He'd started at Hartwell Ranch a month after Thomas died, hired by Elelena from east somewhere. Other workers didn't like him. He had a mean side showing in horse treatment, and anyone he saw as low. Sarah sat in the ride next to Elelena, in her usual gray dress, hands in lap. Caleb watched from outside the general store as Dutch stopped the ride by the dress shop. Elena got down first, ignoring Dutch's hand, and turned to Sarah with a sharp point. "Bring the packages inside when I call, then wait by the ride. I don't want you running off embarrassing me." "Yes, ma'am." Sarah's voice was soft over street noise. Elena swept into the dress shop, her cane tapping bossy. Dutch tied horses and followed, leaving Sarah alone by the ride. She stood in full sun, no umbrella, no shade, hands clasped front. Caleb saw sweat on her forehead, but she didn't move or whine. He finished store stuff, loaded his horse, and found himself walking to the ride. He told himself checking horses for water and heat. But that wasn't all true. And he knew. "Morning," he said quiet as he got close. Sarah's eyes flicked to him, then away. "Good morning, Mr. Stone." So she knew his name. He found that cool, though guess all ranch folks knew each other by face if not chat. "Hot day for sun standing. I'm okay. Shade by the stable if you want to wait there." Mrs. Hartwell said, "Wait here." Caleb glanced at dress shop. Through window, he saw Elena checking fabric while the maker hovered nervous. "She'll be a while. Put your hand on the ride wheel. If she looks, she'll see you right there." Sarah's lips almost smiled. "You're saying be bad. I'm saying don't get sick from heat for no reason." For a sec he thought she might, but her face shut again, and she shook head a bit. "Thanks, but no. Easier to do what she says. Easier." The word bugged him more than it should, 'cause Sarah didn't look like easy path chooser. She looked like no options left. Before Caleb answered, noise broke across street. Two dogs fought outside bar. Crowd watched. In mess, someone's wagon backed quick. Driver lost hold. The wagon zoomed across street, straight for Elena's ride. Caleb moved fast. He grabbed Sarah's arm and yanked her safe just as runaway wagon hit the ride, rocking it on wheels. The horses bucked and whined, eyes wild with scare. Sarah tripped against Caleb and he held her, hands on shoulders. She breathed hard, face pale. But what hit him was how she looked at him unguarded. Surprise, yeah, but deeper. Knowing maybe. Like nobody guarded her in ages, and she forgot having someone on her team. "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, stepping back. "Thanks." That was, "What is going on out here?" Elena's voice cut noise like knife. She came from dress shop, Dutch behind. Her eyes scanned quick. The wagon, scared horses. Sarah close to Caleb with his hands near her shoulders. "Mrs. Hartwell," Caleb said even. There was a crash. The girl almost got hit. "The girl has a name," Elena said cold, then to Sarah. "Come here now." Sarah went fast, to Elena's side, the quick link between her and Caleb like never. She was all follow again, all blank careful. Elena checked her up down, then sharp eyes on Caleb. "I don't remember asking you to mess in my stuff, Mr. Stone. Didn't take much messing. Just stood there when things went bad. How lucky." Elena's tone said not lucky. She lifted cane and pointed at Sarah. "You were to watch packages. Instead, you're making scenes with help." "Ma'am, I didn't." Sarah started. The slap of Elena's hand on Sarah's face shut her. It was quick. Crowd barely saw. But Caleb saw. Saw Sarah's head snap side. Saw red mark grow on cheek. Saw she didn't touch it. Didn't sound. Just stood taking it like hundreds before. Something cold, hard hit Caleb's chest. He'd seen lots violence in years, more than fair. But watching helpless, hit in daylight with watchers doing nothing, made his hands fist at sides. "You won't shame me in public?" Elena said to Sarah, voice low for close ears. "Remember your spot. Remember what you are. Property. That's it. Understand?" Sarah's voice whisper. "Yes, ma'am." "Good." Elena to Dutch. Get packages from inside. We're going. This town too wild for nice folks. As Dutch did, Elena's eyes hit Caleb again. Mr. Stone, you seem real into stuff not yours. Wonder if you forgot your spot. You work for me. Do the job paid and no more. If that don't fit, I can find another mountain guy to fix fences for good pay. It was threat plain. Shut mouth and eyes down, or no job. In other time, with other lady, Caleb might back off. He'd walked from fights not his. But this moment, red on Sarah's face, and Elena glowing mean happy, made him stand firm. I get the deal fine, Mrs. Hartwell, he said quiet. I work your land and fix needs. But can't help what I see, and gotta say, what I see bugs me some. Elena's eyes slim. Your bugs ain't my worry. No, ma'am. Guess not. For long they stood sizing each. Elena Hartwell with cash and power and status. Caleb Stone with just thoughts and rep for too stubborn. Crowd quiet, sensing big but not getting. Finally, Elena smiled, but not to eyes. You seem like guy who knows when beat, Mr. Stone. Suggest remember that smart in days ahead. Mountains dangerous for those not minding own biz. She got in ride. Sarah after. Dutch loaded packages and drove. As Ride left, Sarah looked back once through tiny back window. Her eyes met Caleb's instant, and in glance he saw stuff making suspicions solid. She wasn't scared. She was mad. Deep, careful mad from long wrong with no fight back. Whatever Sarah was, whatever brought her to Hartwell Ranch under Elena's thumb, she wasn't broke. She was waiting, timing. Question was waiting for what? Caleb stood in Dusty's street long after Ride gone, mind flipping what seen heard. Town folks scattered, back to stuff like nothing. That bugged him near as slap. All decent people, none stepped up. None said word. That was brave, voice behind, or dumb. Hard tell difference sometimes. Caleb turned, see Doc Hayes. Grizzled guy, 60s with kind eyes, steady hands. He'd been town doc 30 years, birthed most kids running Main Street, fixed more shots breaks than he wanted count. Didn't feel brave, Caleb said. Felt needed. Those two often match. Doc Hayes fixed glasses, looking street where Ride went. I treated Thomas last days. Good man. Didn't deserve go like he did. Caleb's focus sharp. Thought guts sick. That's what I wrote on paper. Doc Hayes met eyes. But gut sick don't usually show like Thomas. Vomit, shakes, pain, matched something else. Poison, Caleb said flat. Doc Hayes, no, yes, no. Just looked tired. I'm old, Mr. Stone. Got practice keep and folks need me. Can't accuse without proof 'gainst richest lady around. Even if thoughts say I should, what about girl? Caleb asked. Sarah, know anything? Just she showed when Thomas got sick. Elena said distant kin helping. But saw how Thomas looked at her once I visited with her in room. Wasn't charity look. Was way man looks at he stopped, picking words careful. At someone waited long see. Pieces fitting in Caleb's head, making mad sad equal. Anyone else know what you tell? If do not saying. Elena holds too many futures. Speak against her. Might no bank credit. Loan called, biz odd struggle. She's clear what cross her gets. Doc Hayes, hand on Caleb's shoulder. You seem decent, glad someone stood to her, even small. But careful. Elena don't forgive, don't forget. Got stuff you don't. Thanks warning, Doc. One more. Old Doc voice lower. Thomas had safe box at bank. Right before die, said updated will put Doc safe. Said if anything him, make sure Doc see light. But after funeral I went bank. Elena cleared box. Said right as widow. Bank boss no argue. What in will? Original? Don't know. Thomas no specifics, but seemed relieved on lawyer. Said finally right, justice served even if not see. Doc Hayes shook head. 2 days later, dead Elena burning papers in fire. Saw smoke from road when road check him. Caleb quiet moment taking info. Then held hand. Thanks, trust me, Doc. Older shook firm. Trust, 'cause first look willing do something. Just remember right thing and live right thing to diff. Try both if can. After Doc Hayes left, Caleb walked town edge where horse tied. Loaded stuff auto mined elsewhere. Face with Elena changed basic. He'd set out quiet. Let her know Saw didn't like. Made him problem deal. But Big Saw flash Sarah eyes. Mad will. She not victim weight rescue. She own planned purpose. Didn't know yet, but would find. As Road Ranch, noticed rider followed distance. Dutch. Elena doing threat. Watch him. Caleb no change pace or show Saw. Let watch. Done nothing wrong, no plan, but no plan look away more. When reached ranch, found boss weight barn. Man looked awkward, shifting foot. Mrs. Hartwell wants see you, boss said. In study now, she said right now. Caleb got off-handed horse reins. Care him me will? He's had long day. Walk main house felt longer should. Dutch back stood porch, arms crossed, smirked like knew something Caleb didn't or thought. Elena waited Thomas old study, behind desk like owned not just room, but all, which law she did. Study-lined books Thomas collected years, history, farm guides, poems, think stuff. Elena changed nothing but add self, somehow made room small cold. Mr. Stone, she said no intro. Been checking ranch books thinking workers I got. Realize over folks for winter ahead. Need hard choices who stays who finds work else. Was careful threat. Not fire straight look petty mean, but let no spot shaky. On her whim. That's your right, Mrs. Hartwell, Caleb said even. You own place, I do. She moved round desk, cane tapping floor. I own ranch, land, every person works here. When give order, expect follow, no question comment. When punish staff, expect workers mind own biz. Clear? Crystal, ma'am? Good. Hate lose worker over dumb like wrong night stuff. Girl, none your worry. She right where belongs, doing what meant. If problem how run house, welcome find work else, but no mess again. Not town, not ranch, nowhere. Understand? Caleb met eyes, saw cold, sure someone never real challenged. She thought untouchable. Maybe right, maybe not. Get what saying, Mrs. Hartwell, he said careful. Can't promise agree all see, but do work paid. Elena's face hard. See you do. Go. As Caleb left study past Sarah Hall. She carried tea tray to Elena's sit room, eyes down, red marked cheek now bruise. She no look him pass, but as level something fell apron pocket clattered floor. Button, plain wood. Caleb bent pick as Rose, Sarah hand brush his. In quick touch she pushed something his palm. Something small folded. Then she passed, whispering thanks so quiet almost miss. He closed fist round what she gave, kept walking, no look back, no reason watchers think something passed. Wasn't till safe back small spot near barn he opened hand unfolded paper scrap. Torn from book, rough edge show careful pull. On it small neat writing 3 words. Please help me. Below 3 more. Thomas was father. Caleb stared, note long. Pieces final place. Sarah not servant or far kin or orphan. She Thomas Hartwell daughter. And somehow Elena trapped her, stole inheritance forced serve. Question now how, and big what Caleb do. He looked out window main house where lights warm 'gainst dark. Somewhere there, Sarah did evening chores, playing servant, waiting someone help reclaim right hers. That afternoon town, Caleb promised self stand right. Now chance make good, dangerous. Elena showed willing kill threat position, own hubby too. If Doc Hayes guessed right, but Caleb spent too many years mountain, alone thoughts regrets. Walked enough fights, looked aside enough wrong. Told self not problem, not biz, not worth risk. Not this time. He careful folded note tucked shirt pocket near heart. Then pulled leather gloves belonged Thomas Hartwell, one's boss gave months ago first start ranch. Good gloves, well made, Thomas initials inside cuff. Caleb feeling need 'em 'cause work ahead not fix fences or clear dead. Hard or dangerous. Fighting justice place where justice buried with honest man. The note changed all nothing. Caleb now knew truth. But truth no proof, just man opinion territory where Elena Hartwell money louder any word. Needed evidence. Needed friends. And big needed careful. Elena watching, one wrong move cost position or worse. For 3 days after Sarah note, Caleb did work normal on purpose. Rode fence lines, cleared brushwater spots, fixed North Line shack where winter snow hurt roof. Spoke no one more need, gave Elena no thinky anything but taught worker learned lesson. But mind working constant, flipping problem every side. If Sarah real Thomas' daughter, be records, letters maybe, law papers, something prove who she was and claim Hartwell Place. Question where docs might how get without alert Elena. On 4th day, Caleb rode Silver Ridge pretend pick stuff line shack. Instead, general store, tied horse outside Smith shop went in. Smith, wide guy named Hank Morrison, worked Silver Ridge 20 years. If anyone knew town pass secrets, Hank, forge hot despite early, Hank at anvil hammering horseshoe. Looked up Caleb enter, then back work till shoe done. Then plunged water barrel turned face visitor. Caleb Stone, Hank said, wipe sweat forehead rag. Don't usually see town twice week. Need ask questions. Caleb said about Thomas Hartwell. Hank face guarded. Thomas dead. Nothing talk there. There if knew him good. Did you? Good enough. Good customer. Always paid time. Treated fair. Hank hung shoe cool. Why ask? 'Cause something not right how things after he died. Wonder if only feel. Hank studied long, glanced open shop door. Street quiet, not empty. You work his widow, right? Seems want keep her good side. There seems like an is, Caleb said. Not always same. Smith seemed to side. Walked shop door pulled closed, shut most street noise. When turned back, face changed. Thomas came see me 2 months before died. Had make special. Strong box, good lock. Said important papers keep safe. Say what papers? No ask, not my biz. Hank paused, but seemed worried. Said people might destroy docs if new exist. Asked no mention box anyone, special not wife. Where box now? Don't know. Thomas picked when done, paid, last saw. Hank low voice. But tell something else. Day before Thomas died, young woman came town east stage. Saw her off carry one small bag. Asked driver where find Hartwell Ranch. Remember thinking odd. Dressed plain, but carried self like fancy folks. Spoke educated. See where went? Stage driver pointed livery hire wagon. Busy work, no see after. But next day, Thomas sick. 3 days later, dead. Week after, saw same young woman work Hartwell Ranch. Servant clothes looking aged 10 years. Sarah had be. She'd come Silver Ridge see father, somehow Elena trapped. Tell anyone else what saw. Who tell, what say? Saw woman off stage then again later. No crime. Hank shook head. But wondered. Wondered if Thomas knew coming. Wondered what house change fast. You think Elena hand Thomas death? Think Elena Hartwell dangerous woman got all wanted moment Thomas died. Think asking too many questions good way trouble. Hank met Caleb eyes. Telling 'cause Thomas good man deserved better. But got family feed biz run. Can't afford enemy Elena Hartwell. Get, Caleb said. Thanks talk me. Just careful. Not first notice wrong Hartwell Place. But might first dumb enough try something. Caleb left Smith's shop more questions, answers. Knew Sarah arrived just before Thomas died. Knew Thomas ordered strong box important docs, but no know where now or what in. If proof Sarah who and inheritance probably key all. His next stop general store where did need pick stuff. Shop guy, thin nervous named Carlson filled order no much talk. But as Caleb leaving, Carlson called back. Mr. Stone, moment please. Caleb back counter. Something wrong order? No order fine. Carlson glanced make sure alone. Couldn't help hear what happened town last Saturday. You stand Mrs. Hartwell like that? Wasn't much. Just reacted wagon came. More than we both know. Carlson voice lower. Wi-Fi in Silver Ridge 15 years. Knew Thomas from First Build Ranch. Used bring daughter town sometimes small before went east. Live mother family after split. Caleb focused sharp. Thomas had daughter. Sarah named after grandma. Cute kid, always ask everything. Smart quick, Thomas loved her. But first wife before Elena wanted girl raised better school than here. Split when Sarah about 7 she went east mother. Thomas sent cash, wrote letters, but no see much after. Broke heart. What happened, Mother? Died 3 years back. Heard. Lungs sick. After Thomas tried contact Sarah. Wanted come see ranch, maybe stay. But Elena no like. Married Thomas Moneyland, no want daughter old marriage come claims estate. Pieces drop water, each wave show more picture. So when Sarah showed, Thomas sent her without tell Elena. Or maybe Sarah came on after Mother died. Either. Arrived 2 days later, Thomas dead. Carlson rubbed face hands. Look, can't prove nothing. But seeing how Elena treat girl like nothing, like own, makes sick. But what do? Elena owns mortgage. Speak against, lose all. Not asking speak against, Caleb said. Just try get what happened. Thomas say anything you before died? About Sarah or Will or that? Came here week before passed. Bought right paper envelopes, good kind wax seals, said important letters right. Seemed Carlson paused, hunt word content like man-made piece something. Told given second chance no deserve, intend make most. Mention specific right to? No, but saw post one himself land office. Remember 'cause used gold seal. No see many anymore. Thomas had special years ago family crest. Gold seal just like Sarah note. Caleb felt sure heavy. Thomas wrote daughter, probably explain all, sick, estate, plans her future. And Sarah had letter, kept hidden all time. Thanks, Mr. Carlson, Caleb said. Helped more no. Just Carlson hesitated. If planning something, careful. Elena friends high places. Territory judge, bank boss, half big rancher's territory. Not someone fight straight win. Sometimes Caleb said quiet. Fights not win. About stand up. Win or not after. He loaded stuff, rode back ranch, mind work what learned. Sarah Thomas legit daughter. Came west after mother death, probably Thomas invite. Thomas knew sick or maybe knew Elena poison made plans. Strong box, sealed letter, maybe knew Will hidden safe. But Thomas died, Elena moved fast secure spot. Destroyed docks could find, claimed estate widow, turned Sarah servant keep quiet, no power. Ruthless worked perfect if no one looked deep. Caleb knew need find strong box. But where Thomas hide? Not main house. Elena find there. Not bank, 'cause cleared safe box. Somewhere else only Thomas think, trust, line shacks. Thomas built 3 far property. Spots ranch hands, shelter long rides, bad weather. Simple but solid. Thomas built self-hands. Years before rich hire others. Worth checklist. Over next days, Caleb worked near each line shack turn, check careful. First 2 nothing odd, but third, farthest north foothills, had something others know. Stone fireplace Thomas built extra care. Stones fit so tight barely need glue. Kind workman does want last. Caleb studied fireplace long. Then tested stones, push each, check move. Most solid, but 1 waist high right side shifted bit push. Worked loose, careful reached space behind. Fingers touched metal, heart pound. Caleb pulled metal box size big book. Locked but lock simple. Kind man use keep safe casual find but open quick self. Caleb learned pick locks scout days. Took few minutes open. Inside papers, letters, docs. Caleb hands shook bit lifted first, photo tin frame. Showed younger Thomas Hartwell beside woman small girl. Woman pretty, dark hair, gentle smile. Girl maybe 6'7", had father eyes, mother smile. Back frame Thomas writing my family, my heart, my Sarah, under photo letters. Some Sarah to Thomas, written years, child careful hand, grew elegant adult. Spoke school, friends, mother sick, life Boston. Spoke love father barely remember but want no bad. Thomas replies there too. Copies kept center. In them, Caleb read father want, regrets split, wish part daughter life. And recent letters months before death, Thomas spoke bring Sarah home, give right hers, make up lost years. Bottom box sealed envelope Sarah named Thomas hand. Caleb no open. Not for him but felt weight, real emotional. This Thomas last word daughter? Maybe written new time short. Under envelope another doc, will dated 2 weeks before Thomas' death. Caleb read careful, jaw tight each line. Thomas left all Sarah, ranch, house, land, cows, everything owned. Bit for Elelena, nice cash keep comfy life. But main estate, heart all Thomas built, meant daughter. Will witnessed stamped law bind or should. Caleb sat back heels, dock hands, felt full weight Elelena done. She'd killed hubby. Caleb sure now. Destroyed will find probably one filed lawyer. But Thomas smart or suspect enough make copy hide Elelena never think look. Now Caleb held copy, with it power break Elelena careful lies. But also held Sarah future hands, made him careful more own fate. If moved quick, if faced Elelena direct, she might hurt Sarah before justice. Needed smart, needed plan. He careful put all back strong box except will copy, folded tucked shirt. Rest, letters, photo, left hide. Evidence but precious memories belong Sarah. When time right, she get 'em. Caleb put stone fireplace, made sure look same. Then sat rough wood bed lined shack thought options. Could go territory bosses but take weeks. Elelena reach maybe there. Could go local sheriff but man Elelena pocket. Could gather town folks make public blame but no lawyer present proper. Elelena might call fake. What needed alley law? Know enough brave stand 'gainst Elelena power. Only fit was Mr. Brennan. Old lawyer helped Thomas draft original will. Next morning, Caleb rode town early before sun full clear mountains. Found Mr. Brennan office above land office, small room law books, walls, papers, every spot. Brennan thin man, late 60s, white hair, sharp eyes, Miss Little. Mr. Stone, Brennan said, Caleb knock open door. Wondered when find here? Expecting? Say hoping. Thomas Hartwell friend client. What after death bugged thoughts lots. Gestured chair, sit, tell no. Caleb sat late all. Sarah true who? Suspect around Thomas death. Elelena mean. Strong box. And final will copy found. Pulled doc placed Brennan desk. Lawyer hands shook bit picked read. When done, set careful removed glasses, rub eyes. I drafted this will self. Thomas came 3 months ago, said want change estate plan. Told Sarah coming home want all her. Advised tell Elelena prep, but said never accept. Said married him money try stop disinherit. So kept secret he did. Asked file will county clear keep original safe. Did both. But 2 days after Thomas died, Elelena came off as different will dated week after will I filed. That version, all her only small give surviving kids. But Sarah his only kid. Exact. Will worded careful seem acknowledged kids possible, but no name Sarah heir. Elelena claimed Thomas changed mind after Sarah came disappointed somehow. Said different lawyer draft, 'cause no want hurt feelings undo work. You believe? Brennan face bitter. No want, but had will witnessed stamped. Dated newer mine when checked county clerk will I filed gone. Clerk claimed file error, never proper record. Without doc, no proof my version legit. Elelena destroyed, almost sure, or had someone for her. Clerk knew young, easy bribe or scare. Brennan picked will copy again. But this changes all. This proof Thomas meant Sarah inherit. With this challenge Elelena claim. What need do? First get Sarah safe somewhere. If Elelena knows we have doc, move against immediate. Second, gather more evidence Elelena crimes, poison, fraud, destroy law docs. Third, present all territorial judge way, no room Elelena move. Caleb leaned forward. Need talk, Sarah. She has letter Thomas gold seal, proof link. But get her without Elelena no hard. Might help that. Brennan stood moved cabinet corner room. Pulled whiskey bottle 2 glasses, poured big both, handed one Caleb. Thomas used say right thing often hardest. Right about that, but also said hard things usually worth. They drank quiet. 2 men ready fight not sure when. How long think have before Elelena next move? Caleb asked. Not long. Been quiet courting rancher named Culver next territory. Rich, widowed, want wife own property. Heard rumors marry before winter. If happens more protect. Husband word wait court. Culver money links make near impossible challenge. Then move soon. Move careful, Brennan fixed. Elelena destroyed men threatened less we about. But yes, move soon. As Caleb left lawyer office, felt full weight taken. This not just help young woman reclaim inheritance. About stand corruption mean flourished 'cause good folks looked away. About make sure Thomas Hartwell last wishes honored. About prove justice still means something. Even place money power usually win. He rode back ranch, copied will hidden saddlebag. Mind already how reach Sarah, prep her, get safe when time. Elena watching close now. Seen Dutch follow again morning. Any touch Sarah risky. But as reached ranch, saw Sarah carry water well, head bowed under bucket weight, new find way. She'd waited months, put up daily shame, hold hope someone see truth. Deserved know someone had, not alone more, help coming. That night, Caleb waited till main house dark quiet. Then went alone, small shed ranch tools kept. Building knew Sarah passed every morning before dawn start kitchen fires. Left note tucked loose board she'd find written careful block letters. Know who you are. Found Father Will, Mr. Brennan helping? Stay strong. Trust no one else. Burn this after reading. Wasn't much, but start. And sometimes, darkest times, start all need, find strength, keep. Days after careful dance, normal ways, hide desperate prep. Elena kept iron control house, seemed no ground under feet starting shift. Week after talk with Brennan, Caleb rode Silver Ridge, specific reason. Needed see real law docs Elena used claim estate, forged will presented Brennan, get exact what she made, help counter good. Found Brennan office, surrounded law books, papers. Old lawyer looked up Caleb enter, face serious. Been doing research, Brennan said no intro. Into laws, inheritance fights territory. Situation more messed than first thought. Caleb sat heavy. How messed? Elena will, forged one, proper filed, recorded. Law eyes, legit to prove not. Challenge. Need prove, not just Thomas wrote diff will, but Elena knew destroyed purpose. That's fraud, maybe plot fraud. No, she destroyed. County clerk records gone, knowing proving diff. Clerk claims no, says never saw Thomas will, never proper filed. Without original, without someone testify, Elena destroyed, fighting Hill. What Sarah testify? She tell court what happened. She can try, but Elena argue Sarah Madkin try steal inheritance. Without backup, her word against Elena, and Elena has weight property, cash, status her side. Caleb felt mad build. So what do? Need more evidence. Best, prove poison. If show Elena killed Thomas, all else place. Forged will part big crime pattern. Brennan pulled doc drawer. Been reviewed Doc Hayes notes Thomas last sick. Symptoms match arsenic poison, but Hayes no test time. No reason suspect bad play. Can test now, dig body. Needs court order, needs good cause, needs evidence, no have yet. Stuck circle problem. Brennan rubbed eyes tired. But maybe other way. If Elena still has poison, if find prove had around Thomas death time, could enough start look. You want search private rooms? Can't ask that. If caught, Elena have you jailbreak in or worse. Caleb thought Sarah face talk 2 days, father. Happy stolen both. I'll do. When best chance. Elena hosts dinner party next Wednesday night. All big people territory, judge, banker, several large ranches, including Mr. Culver. Occupied hours, staff-focused dining kitchen. That's window. Sarah can help. Knows house, knows Elena ways. Careful involve more. If Elena suspects Sarah knows, might move against immediate. Sarah already in and stronger, Elena thinks. Brennan nodded slow. Thomas always said daughter steal spine. Beginning believe right. After leave lawyer office, Caleb made other stops town. Visited Doc Hayes, who quiet agreed help if find poison evidence. Stopped Smith shop, where Hank Morrison said support, careful but real, and went general store, where Mr. Carlson whispered other town folks starting question Elena story events. Doubt seeds planted. Now need grow sure. That evening, back ranch, Caleb found moment alone Sarah as she carried wood main house. He fell step beside her, voice low. Wednesday night, Elena dinner party. That's when search rooms. Sarah step no miss. I'll make sure serve. Can make distraction if need. Looking poison. Probably small bottle. Easy hide. I'll search private spots. You watch Dutch other hands. She paused porch steps. If find nothing, present what have hope enough. But think find something. Elelanina sure, too sure. That sure makes folks sloppy. Wednesday came, crisp autumn air, clear skies. Elelanina spent day-controlled buzz, watch every dinner prep detail. Wore new dress from San Francisco, deep green match her looks. Mahogany cane polished shine, carried like king stick. Guests started sunset. Caleb watched barn as rides rolled. Territory judge wife, bank boss, several rich ranchers' families. And final Mr. Culver self. Broad guy 50s, recent widow, looked someone never real hard. Greeted Elelanena smooth charm, she answered, smile almost real. As dinner started, Caleb moved spot. Servants busy kitchen dining, ranch hands night off. Elelanena no rough guys around fancy guests. Only Dutch duty, front entrance like guard dog. Sarah told Caleb Elelanena, private room, second floor, far hall end. Kept locked, not using. But Sarah made wax key print weeks ago. Hope useful someday. Caleb took print Hank Morrison, who made copy. Now stood shadows near back stairs. Copy key heavy pocket, wait Sarah signal. She showed kitchen door carry dish tray. Looked him once, nodded slight, then back inside. Distraction 5 minutes. Caleb counted, then up back stairs, quick quiet. Years scout taught move no sound. Used all now. Up hall empty. Lit few oil lamps flick shadows walls. Elelanena door end hall, solid wood brass lock. Caleb put key, hold breath, felt turn smooth. Door open oiled hinges, he slipped in, close behind. Rooms fancy furnished. Elelanena no spare cost personal spots. 4-post bed ruled 1 room, velvet curtains, silk pillows. Sit area delicate furniture, look Europe import. Dress room connect, bedroom full gowns, jewelry, more wealth, most Silver Ridge see life. Caleb moved quick rooms, search method. Bed tables only books personal. Wardrobe clothes shoes. Drawer bureau under stuff add-ons all neat. Starting think wrong when noticed. Right desk corner sit room. Locked but lock easy simpler door. Inside, Elelanena private letters, account books, small wood box brass snap. Box locked too. Caleb worked 30 seconds to click open. Inside, velvet wrap, small blue glass bottle. No label, no marks. But when Caleb careful pull stopper sniff, caught faint garlic smell, Doc Hayes said arsenic sign. Hands shook, bit rewrap bottle, put back box. This it, evidence needed. Elelanena kept poison. Probably dump, might ask more questions than hide. Or maybe kept plan use again, on Sarah maybe, or any threat position. Caleb careful locked box, put all back found. Turning leave when heard voices hall. Elelanena voice, sharp mad, Mr. Culver deep try calm. I just need get my wrap. Elelanena saying dining drafty won't sit shiver try nice talk. Of course dear, though must say you look lovely even shiver, voices closer. Caleb quick check options. Windows open second drop. Wardrobe too obvious. Only other dress room racks, gowns, shelves, shoes. Moved quick dress room, pulled door almost closed, leave crack see. Heart pound heard key turn main door lock. Elelanena entered Mr. Culver follow close. She went wardrobe pulled shawl, drape shoulders. There better. Though wonder why servants can't keep good fires every room. You're real strict staff, Culver said. Tone light but edge something, wonder maybe or mild no like. One must be special certain types, need constant watch, or lazy bold. Elelanena fixed shawl, turned face, Culver calc smile. But sure didn't come up talk house run. No, Culver agreed, closer her. Came what moment alone you, away eyes downstairs. How bold you, Mr. Culver, what people say. Say man, woman, right age, spot, moment together. No bad that, sure. Elelanena smile wider. Guess not. Though admit surprised eager. Courting few months, long enough no want. You're amazing woman, Elelanena. Pretty smart, run successful ranch alone. Not many women do what you... Not many had to. Elelanena voice practiced sad. When Thomas died, no choice learn quick. Territory no forgive weak. Indeed no. Why our join makes sense. My stuff with yours make biggest ranch 3 territories. We'd be strong team. Team, Elelanena repeated tone think. How see marriage? Biz deal? Every good marriage base practical. Passion fade, beauty old, but property cash last. Culver took hand. Offer you safe, Elelanina. Protect. Man name stand when wolves circle. Return. Get wife, get frontier real. From Hyde, Caleb watched Elelanina face careful. She weigh Culver words, own plans. Saw calc eyes. You speak plain, she said final. Like that. Had enough romantic, silly lifetime. Thomas full poems, big moves, but fool practical. He near gave all we built to, she stopped quick. Catch self. To who? Culver asked. Interest up to various give causes dubious kin. But past now. Secured estate, it stay secure. She squeezed hand. If marry expect will, find me practical profit partner. But need certain promises. Name 'em. First estate stay my name. Won't give control what work to keep. Second, certain past stuff stay buried, no check. Had make hard choices, won't sorry or question. And third, she paused, pick words careful. There's young woman now my maid. She's problem need fix before wedding. Quiet permanent, Caleb blood cold. She planned Sarah kill open talk like biz deal. Culver frowned. Not sure get what suggest, don't you? Think get perfect. Girl last loose from old marriage. Has ideas place Thomas life estate. Ideas no base, but trouble possible. Needs vanish before problems us. Asking me part murder. Asking real. Territory dangerous. Young women vanish time. Accidents happen. Wild animals, cliff falls, river drown. Frontier takes many lives. Elelanina voice total calm, total cold. Suggest nature take course next weeks. Before wedding prefer Culver pulled hand away. Came seek wife Elelanina, not partner crime. Crime? Dramatic word. Talk practical fix problem. You said self-territory no forgive weak. Well, let threats stay weak. Elam threat. Nothing more. Girl human, not threat eliminate. Girl nobody with big dreams. Came try claim inheritance no right, won't let destroy all built. Elelanina voice hard. Thought you man get success needs wrong? Culver stared long. Caleb saw exact moment rancher see Elelanina shift attract widow something dark far. Believe wrong about you, Mrs. Hartwell, sorry waste time. He turned walk door. Elelanina voice stop. If leave now, if tell word anyone, destroy you. Have friends every corner territory. Judges, bankers, politicians can make life hard, Mr. Culver. Tie land law fights, call loans, spread rumors character. Find self alone broke 6 months. Culver turned back, face mixed disgust pity. Have friends too, Mrs. Hartwell. And have something you see miss, thoughts. Threat all like. Leaving done courtship. He left, close door control force. Elelanina stood alone room, hands tight sides, face twist rage. Then, visible try, she fixed self, smooth face skirts. Picked cane struck floor once, mad gesture, then followed Culver out room. Caleb waited dress room full minute after left, sure no return. Mind racing. Culver just heard Elelanina basic admit plan murder. Changed all. Now witness. Rich respect witness. No reason lie, every reason want space Elelanina. But also meant Elelanina now desperate. Just lost future hubby plans, quick marriage sale estate. She'd be danger now, no predict. Might move against Sarah right stead, wait. He slipped dress room, checked hall, made way downstairs. Found Sarah kitchen wash dishes with Rosa. Eyes met question. He shook head slight. Not here, not now. She got returned work. Caleb left back door made barn, needed think plan. All speeding now. Culver leave party, probably leaving now. Elelanina deal social shame suitor walk. She'd know Culver might talk. Tell folks what said. Need act quick discredit. Paint dumped guy spread lies. Need kill Sarah before anyone hears story. Caleb still think through mean. When Dutch found barn, Mrs. Hartwell wants see you, Foreman said. Face suggest knew something wrong right now. She's middle dinner party. Not anymore. Guests leaving. Something Culver. Words stormed out. Dutch smile nasty. Mrs. Hartwell mood. Advise step careful. Caleb walked main house Dutch close behind. Dining room clearing. Guests quick sorry leave night. Judge wife look awkward. Bank family seem confused. Whatever Elelanina Culver ended party. Found Elelanina study stand behind Thomas' desk like before, but this time compose cracking edges. Face red, breath up, Hands grip cane hard, knuckles white. "Mr. Stone," she said, voice tight. "Been thinking your job." "Yes, ma'am." "You worked months now, long enough see house how run?" "Tell, noticed anything odd? Anyone act suspect or wrong?" Was trap, not subtle. Try find what he knew, who talked. Caleb kept face neutral. "Can't say have, ma'am. Mostly out workland. No see much household. But interacted staff. With girl like Sarah only passing. Brings waterwork crew sometimes that. She ever talk you personal history or spot here?" "No, ma'am. Mostly keeps self noticed. Does work stays quiet." Elelanina studied, clear try see if lie, I ask. 'Cause girl spreading stories. "Lies real?" Claims relation late hubby. Disturbing offensive won't stand. "Haven't heard stories, ma'am. If do, expect report me right. Girl troubled, maybe danger. Has dreams place here, dreams could lead hurt self others." Elelanina eyes hard. "Understand what saying, Mr. Stone? Girl threat. If something happen her, accident, fall, careless moment, tragic, but not total surprise. She's not well, not stable. Folks understand." Caleb felt hands fist sides, but kept voice even. "Understand what saying, Mrs. Hartwell? Telling plan hurt girl, want me look other way when?" Room silent. Dutch stepped forward, but Elelanina raised hand stop. "That's not what's said," she replied cold. Putting words mouth. "Simply worry troubled young woman employee. As employer, responsibility make sure no come harm, kind harm planning arrange. You're rude. Mr. Stone could have Dutch take you off property now. You could try." Caleb met eyes steady. "But think both no cause talk. Folks wonder why fire sudden. Might start ask questions. Questions last thing want now. Special after future hubby walk tonight." Elelanina face white, then red. "You know nothing my personal. No just lost chance quick marriage profit sale. No desperate now, corner. No desperate folks mess up." He stepped desk. "Here's what happened, Mrs. Hartwell, gonna leave girl alone. Not hurt, threat, or set nice accidents, 'cause if anything her, make sure everyone knows who did. You know proof nothing, don't I? Think if folks started look close late hubby death will left all you way treated daughter?" "Yes, daughter. We both know that's who." "Might find interesting." Elelanina face shift emotions. "Shock, mad, final calc. Been busy, Mr. Stone. More busy simple ranch hand should. Wonder what think done. Done enough. And if smart, leave Silver Ridge, sell ranch someone real, take money, go where no history. That's best now. Threatening me own house. Giving advice. Difference." Caleb turned leave, paused door. "Made one mistake, Mrs. Hartwell. Underguessed everyone round. Thought no notice, no care. No act. Wrong." He walked out before answer. Dutch glare after, but no move stop. As Caleb crossed yard quarters, saw Sarah watch kitchen window. Couldn't read face distance, but hoped she got what just. Fight open now. "No more hide, no more careful plan." Elelanina knew coming her, respond all had. Next 3 weeks till planned wedding date gonna most danger Sarah ever. But least now not face alone. Morning after bad dinner party brought cold rain match mood, Hartwell Ranch. Caleb woke before dawn, find Dutch 2 other hands outside quarters. No speak, just watch attention made message clear. Being watched moves limited. Elelanina making move. Caleb did morning usual like nothing changed, but mind work options backups. Face Elelanina forced hand, but also guard Sarah short. Elelanina couldn't hurt girl now without obvious who. But guard temp. Elelanina find way? She always... He's saddling horse when ranch boss came. "Mrs. Hartwell wants you work Southfield today. Fence fix. Dutch going with. No need help fences." Wasn't suggest. Boss looked awkward. Like man stuck orders no agree, paycheck can't lose. "Just do work, Stone. No trouble." So Elelanina splitting him Sarah, make sure no mess what plan. Caleb thought refuse, force face now, but do nothing but get thrown off. Better seem follow while find other way. He rode South Dutch Trail behind shadow, work real. Fence hurt summer storms, but also farthest main house. Far no see happen there. Far if Sarah call help, never hear. Morning slow. Caleb worked steady, set post string wire while Dutch sat horse watch. Neither talk. Rain kept steady beat, ground mud, every job twice hard. Midday, another hand rode food coffee. Handed basket Dutch, turned Caleb careful face. Rosa sent extra, hand said quiet. Said needs strength. Handed wrapped bundle heavier should. Inside cloth, bread meat, folded paper. Caleb palmed smooth, tucked shirt, while Dutch focused coffee. Hand wrote away no more word. Caleb ate slow, watched Dutch corner eye. When Foreman looked drift mountains, Caleb pulled note read quick. Sarah writing small exact. Elena sent sheriff. Claims stole jewelry. Plans arrest remove property. Moving tonight. Please help S. Caleb jaw tight. Clever. Elena no kill Sarah open now, but arrest false charges remove ranch. When Sarah hold, alone no guard, set accident easier. Fall stairs jail, sudden sick. Many sad young woman thief. Needed back main house. But Dutch watch too close, Southfield hours anywhere. By ride back, sheriff might took Sarah, unless made reason return. Caleb studied fence line repairing, then land beyond. Steep drop creek swollen rain. Horses cross creek reach water other side. If something scared during cross, he worked hour wait right moment. Came when Dutch got off check saddle. Caleb stood fence post, setting stumbled purpose, foot catch wire. Went down hard, cry pain, clutch ankle. Dutch hurry over, face more mad than worry. What? Twisted. Boot caught wire. Caleb tried stand deliberate fall again. Can't wait. Of all Dutch swore fancy can ride. Maybe help mount. Caleb show try stand again, wince good. Scout years taught sell hurt. We head back. Can't work like. Dutch torn suspect practical. If Caleb real hurt, leave here bad. But if fake, bring back main house play plan. Final practical one, fine. But if playing me stone, hell pay. Just get me horse. Ride back over hour Caleb keep act hurt whole. By reach ranch afternoon and evening. Could see sheriff horse tied outside main house, heart sink? Might too late. Dutch helped dismount, Caleb made way quarters, limp good. But stead inside, circled back main house, move quiet could. Dutch call after, but Caleb ignore, focus kitchen door. Rosa met there, face tight worry. Their study. Sheriff question her now. Elena blame steal silver pocket watch. Thomas watch, Elena wears chain. Watch. Course have Thomas initials carved valuable theft serious crime. Sarah no way prove no take. Where watch now? Caleb asked. Elena wearing. Showed sheriff, said found missing morning found Sarah room. Rosa hands twist apron. All lies, Mr. Stone, girl never stole. But who believe her over Mrs. Hartwell? Caleb moved kitchen down hall study. Heard voices, Elena smooth worry. Sheriff rough official, Sarah quiet steady. Didn't take anything Sarah saying. Mrs. Hartwell lying. That's serious blame, miss. Sheriff voice no soft. Mrs. Hartwell respect community. No reason lie. She every reason. Try and get rid me 'cause no truth. She's try get rid me because I know the truth about her and my father. Your father? What you talking about? Thomas Hartwell was my father. This ranch should be mine. Elena poisoned him and forged his will to steal my inheritance. There was a moment of silence. Then Elena's voice with practiced sadness. You see, Sheriff, this is what I've been dealing with. The poor girl is delusional. She's convinced herself she's Thomas's daughter, though of course she has no proof. I've tried to help her, given her employment and a place to stay, but she's grown increasingly unstable. When I confronted her about the missing watch, she became violent and threatening. I fear for my safety. I never threatened you, Sarah said, her voice rising. I never, that's enough. The sheriff's tone had shifted from neutral to decisive. Miss, I'm going to have to take you into custody. If you're innocent, you'll have a chance to prove it at trial. But right now, Mrs. Hartwell has made a formal complaint, and I have a duty to investigate. Caleb stepped into the doorway of the study. All three turned to look at him. Elena with barely concealed triumph, the sheriff with irritation, and Sarah with desperate hope. Sheriff, Caleb said quietly, before you take her anywhere, there's something you should know. Mr. Stone, Elena said sharply. This doesn't concern you. Leave immediately. Can't do that, ma'am. See, I've got information relevant to this case. Information the sheriff needs to hear before he makes any arrests. The sheriff was a stocky man in his 40s named Patterson. He'd held his position for 5 years, largely because Elena and other wealthy landowners supported him. But he wasn't entirely corrupt, just cautious about crossing people with power. He looked at Caleb with wary interest. What information? Sarah Hartwell. Yes, Hartwell. That's her legal name, is Thomas Hartwell's daughter from his first marriage. She came west at her father's invitation 2 days before he died. Elena knew about her, knew Thomas had changed his will to leave the ranch to Sarah, and poisoned Thomas to prevent that will from taking effect. Elena laughed, but it sounded forced. This is ridiculous. Sheriff, Mr. Stone is simply repeating the same delusion Sarah has been spreading. I have proof, Caleb said. Thomas Hartwell's original will properly witnessed and notarized, naming Sarah as his primary heir. Letters between Thomas and Sarah documenting their relationship. A photograph of them together when Sarah was a child. And I know where to find the poison Elena used to kill him. The sheriff's expression had changed from irritation to careful attention. Those are serious allegations. Stone, you better be sure about this. I'm sure. And I'm not the only one who knows. Mr. Brennan, the lawyer, has copies of the will. Doc Hayes can testify about the suspicious nature of Thomas's death. And Mr. Culver, the rancher who was courting Elena, heard her admit last night that she plans to have Sarah killed. That's a lie, Elena said. But her voice had lost some of its confidence. Culver and I had a disagreement. He's a jilted suitor making up stories. Then let's ask him, Caleb said. Let's bring everyone together and see who's telling the truth. Unless you're afraid of what they'll say. The sheriff looked between them, clearly trying to decide how to proceed. On one hand, he had Elena Hartwell, a wealthy widow who helped fund his campaigns. On the other, he had specific allegations of murder and fraud that, if true, would be the biggest case of his career. All right, he said finally. Here's what's going to happen. Miss Sarah, you're coming with me, but you're not under arrest yet. You're being held for questioning. Mrs. Hartwell, you're going to stay right here and not go anywhere until I've had a chance to investigate these claims. Mr. Stone, you're going to take me to this evidence you say you have. If it's real and it's legitimate, we'll proceed accordingly. If you're lying to protect a thief, you'll be arrested yourself. Understood. Understood, Caleb said. Sheriff, you can't seriously be considering, Elena began. Ma'am, I'm considering everything, which is what I'm supposed to do. If this girl really did steal from you, she'll face justice. But if there's even a chance that what Mr. Stone is saying is true, I need to look into it. That's my job. Elena's face went pale, then flushed with rage. But she said nothing more, just stood there gripping her cane so hard Caleb thought it might snap. As the sheriff led Sarah out, she caught Caleb's eye. He gave her a slight nod. Trust me. She nodded back, her chin high despite her fear. Mr. Stone, the sheriff said, show me this evidence. Caleb led him out of the house, aware of Dutch and the other ranch hands watching from various positions around the property. Word would spread quickly that the sheriff was investigating Elena. Some would be pleased, others would be afraid for their jobs. They rode to the North Line shack, the sheriff following in watchful silence. When they arrived, Caleb dismounted and led the way inside to the stone fireplace. He worked the loose stone free and pulled out the metal box. Thomas Hartwell hid this here. It contains everything. His will, letters, photographs, everything that proves Sarah is his daughter and his rightful heir. The sheriff took the box and opened it carefully. He spent a long time examining the contents, reading the will, studying the photograph, going through the letters. When he finally looked up, his expression was grim. This is real, he said quietly. This is Thomas Hartwell's handwriting. I've seen it enough times on legal documents to know, and this will is properly executed and witnessed. Elena destroyed the copy filed with the county, probably bribed the clerk to claim it was never recorded. She presented a different will, one that left everything to her, forged or coerced. Thomas was dying when it was supposedly signed. Elena could have forced him or simply created it after his death and backdated it. The sheriff was quiet for a moment, thinking. Then he said, "You mentioned poison. Where is it?" "In Elena Nena's private chambers. A blue glass bottle hidden in a wooden box in her writing desk." "You searched her rooms." "I did. And before you ask if that makes the evidence inadmissible, remember that we're in territorial court, not federal. Rules are different here, and sometimes you have to break small rules to expose big crimes." Patterson almost smiled. "You sound like someone who's thought about this." "I've had time to think. 3 weeks of watching that woman torture an innocent girl tends to focus the mind. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to ride back, and I'm going to search Elena Nena's rooms with her present. If I find that poison, she's under arrest. If I don't, then we move to the next step, getting a proper investigation launched through the territorial governor's office." "And Sarah?" "Sarah stays in protective custody until this is resolved, but not in a cell. I'll arrange for her to stay with my wife. Elena Nena won't be able to get to her there." Relief flooded through Caleb. "Thank you, Sheriff." "Don't thank me yet. This isn't over." "Elena Nena Hartwell has powerful friends. Even if we prove everything, she might find a way to escape real consequences." He closed the metal box carefully. "But at least now we're asking the right questions. And sometimes that's where justice begins." They rode back to the ranch as the sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. It was beautiful, but Caleb barely noticed. His mind was on what came next: the search, the arrest, the trial that would follow, and on Sarah, who'd waited so long for someone to believe her, to fight for her, to help her reclaim what was rightfully hers. The wait was almost over, but the hardest part was still ahead. The search of Elena Nena's chambers yielded exactly what Caleb had promised. The small blue glass bottle wrapped in velvet cloth, hidden in the locked box in her writing desk. Sheriff Patterson held it up to the lamplight, his expression grave. "Mrs. Hartwell," he said quietly, "can you explain why you have arsenic in your private rooms?" Elena Nena stood in the doorway, her face a mask of composure that must have cost her dearly to maintain. "That bottle isn't mine. I've never seen it before. Someone must have planted it there. Who would do that?" "Mr. Stone, obviously. He admitted to searching my rooms. He could have placed it there himself to support his ridiculous accusations. Except I didn't know he was searching your rooms until after he found it," Patterson pointed out. "And the box was locked. How would he have gotten into it?" "I don't know. But I do know that bottle doesn't belong to me." Patterson turned to Caleb. "When did you search these rooms?" "Last night during the dinner party. The bottle was already there." "Can anyone corroborate that?" Caleb hesitated. He didn't want to implicate Sarah further. But before he could answer, a voice came from behind them. "I can!" They all turned to find Mr. Culver standing in the hallway, his expression set and determined. Elena Nena went pale. "What are you doing here?" she demanded. "I came back to speak with Sheriff Patterson to tell him what I heard last night in these very rooms." Culver stepped forward, his bulk somehow reassuring. "Mrs. Hartwell, you told me last night that you plan to eliminate a young woman in your employ. You discussed it as casually as you might discuss purchasing cattle. When I expressed my horror and refused to be part of it, you threatened to destroy me financially and socially. That's not," Elena Nena began, but Culver cut her off. "I'm a wealthy man, Mrs. Hartwell, wealthy enough that your threats don't frighten me. And I'm a man who believes in doing what's right, even when it's uncomfortable. What you described last night was murder, premeditated, calculated murder, and I won't stand by and let it happen." Sheriff Patterson looked at Culver with new respect. "You're willing to testify to this?" "I am. I'll swear to it in any court you choose." Elena Nena's composure finally cracked. "You fool, you have no idea what you've done." "I have friends, powerful friends. The territorial judge, the bank president, half the legislature. They'll destroy you for this." "Let them try," Culver said calmly. "I face down drought, disease, hostile tribes, and economic collapse. I'm not afraid of corrupt officials." Patterson set the bottle down carefully on Elena Nena's writing desk. "Elena Nena Hartwell, I'm placing you under arrest for the murder of Thomas Hartwell. for fraud in the matter of his will and estate, and for conspiracy to commit murder against Sarah Hartwell. You have the right to wait, Elena said, her voice sharp. You're making a terrible mistake. If you arrest me, if you pursue this investigation, things will come out. Things that will hurt more than just me. What things? Patterson asked. Elena's eyes fixed on Caleb. Ask Mr. Stone about his past. Ask him what he did during the war. Ask him why he really came to Silver Ridge. Caleb felt his stomach drop. He'd known his past might surface eventually, but he hadn't expected Elena to weaponize it now. What's she talking about? Patterson asked, turning to Caleb. Nothing relevant to this case, Caleb said carefully. Oh, but it is relevant. Elena's smile was vicious now. Tell them, Mr. Stone. Tell them about the Shoshone village. Tell them what you and your cavalry unit did there in 1864. The room went silent. Caleb felt every eye on him, felt the weight of memories he'd spent years trying to bury rising up to choke him. I was a cavalry scout during the war, he said quietly. I followed orders. Some of those orders were wrong. I've spent the last 10 years trying to make peace with that. The trial was set for 3 weeks later in the territorial courthouse that served Silver Ridge and the surrounding counties. Those 3 weeks felt like both an eternity and an instant. Filled with frantic preparation and knowing anxiety, Elena had indeed been released on bail. Her lawyer, an expensive man from Denver named Harrison Blake, had argued successfully that she was a respected member of the community with no history of violence and no reason to flee. The judge, the same one who'd attended Elena's dinner parties, had agreed. The bail was set high, but Elena paid it without hesitation. She returned to the Hartwell Ranch as if nothing had changed, moving through the house with her mahogany cane clicking against the floors, issuing orders to a staff that now watched her with weary eyes. But something had changed fundamentally and irrevocably. People were talking, questions were being asked, and Elena's armor of respectability had developed cracks that no amount of money or social standing could fully repair. Sarah remained with Sheriff Patterson and his wife, a kind woman named Martha, who treated her like the daughter she'd never had. The Pattersons' home was modest but warm, and for the first time in months, Sarah slept without fear of being awakened by Elena's cane tapping outside her door or Dutch's heavy footsteps in the hallway. Caleb visited when he could, always accompanied by Mr. Brennan to maintain propriety. They worked on Sarah's testimony, preparing her for the questions she'd face, the accusations Elena's lawyer would make, the scrutiny she'd endure. He'll try to make you seem like a fraud, Brennan explained one afternoon, the three of them sitting in the Pattersons' parlor. He'll question every detail of your story, looking for inconsistencies. He'll suggest you're a confidence artist who researched Thomas's past and came here to steal an inheritance. But the letters? Sarah protested. The photograph, my father's will. How can they dismiss all that? They won't dismiss it outright. They'll cast doubt on it. Suggest the letters were forged, that the will was created after Thomas's death, that the photograph could be of anyone. Brennan's expression was grave. We have the truth on our side, but truth isn't always enough. We need to present it clearly, persuasively, and without any openings for doubt. What about the poison? Caleb asked. Elena had arsenic in her possession. That's not something an innocent person typically keeps hidden in a locked box. Blake will argue it was planted. He'll point to your illegal search of her rooms and suggest you manufactured evidence. He's already petitioned to have the poison excluded from evidence on those grounds. Will the judge allow that? I don't know. Judge Carmichael has ties to Elena, but he also has a reputation to maintain. If he appears too biased, it could hurt him politically. We'll have to wait and see. The days passed in a blur of preparation. Mr. Culver gave his deposition, describing in detail the conversation he'd overheard between Elena and himself. Doc Hayes reviewed his notes on Thomas's final illness and agreed to testify about the symptoms consistent with arsenic poisoning. Hank Morrison, the blacksmith, confirmed Thomas had commissioned a strong box shortly before his death. Mr. Carlson from the general store testified about Thomas buying special writing paper with gold seals. But for every witness who stepped forward to support Sarah's case, Eleanor's lawyer found two who spoke to her good character and community standing. The bank president praised her business acumen. The president of the Ladies' Aid Society described her charitable work. A dozen ranch hands and business associates testified that she'd run the Hartwell estate efficiently and fairly after Thomas's death. It was a battle of narratives, and Ella Lanena had spent years building hers. Sarah was starting from nothing, asking people to believe that the widow they'd all known and respected was actually a murderer and a fraud. A week before the trial, Caleb received an unexpected visitor at the ranch. He'd been working near the barn when a well-dressed stranger approached on horseback. A man in his 30s with an Eastern manner and expensive clothes. "Mr. Stone," the man called. "I'm looking for Caleb Stone." "That's me." The man dismounted and extended his hand. "James Mitchell. I'm a reporter for the Denver Post. I've been following the Hartwell case, and I'd like to ask you some questions." Caleb shook his hand wearily. "Not sure I have much to say to reporters." "I understand your reluctance. But this case has attracted attention beyond Silver Ridge, a wealthy widow accused of murdering her husband and stealing his daughter's inheritance. It's the kind of story people want to read about, and I'd rather tell it accurately than rely on speculation and rumor." "What do you want to know?" "Everything. How you came to be involved, what evidence you found, why you believe Sarah Hartwell's claims." Mitchell pulled out a notebook. "And I'd like to hear your side of what happened during the war. Mrs. Hartwell's lawyer has been circulating information about your military record. I'd like to give you a chance to respond." So Ella Lanena was using the press to attack his credibility before the trial even began. Caleb should have expected that. "I was part of an incident during the war that I'm not proud of. I've never denied it. When I realized what was happening, I tried to stop it and save lives. That's all I have to say about it." "That's not quite all, though, is it?" Mitchell's voice was gentle but persistent. "You testified against your commanding officer. That took courage. Most men would have stayed silent to protect their careers and their reputations. Most men didn't watch children die because they followed orders without question." Mitchell wrote quickly in his notebook. "And now you're standing up for Sarah Hartwell, even though it's cost you your position and potentially your safety. Some might see a pattern there. A man trying to redeem past failures by fighting for justice now." "I'm not looking for redemption," Caleb said flatly. "I'm looking to help a young woman who's been victimized by someone with power and money. That's all." "Fair enough." Mitchell closed his notebook. "For what it's worth, I believe Sarah's story. I've done my research, talked to people who knew Thomas Hartwell, looked at the timeline of events. Everything points to Ella Lanena being guilty, but belief and proof are different things. The question is whether the jury will see what I see. What do you think our chances are?" "Honestly, better than they were a week ago. Public opinion is shifting. People are asking questions they should have asked when Thomas died. Ella Lanena's still powerful, but she's not untouchable anymore. If the trial goes well, if the evidence is presented effectively, you might win." Mitchell paused. "But it's not going to be easy. Ella Lanena's lawyer is very good, and Judge Carmichael owes her favors. You'll need everything to go right." After Mitchell left, Caleb found himself thinking about chance and fate and the strange paths life takes. A year ago, he'd been living alone in the mountains, avoiding human complications, seeking peace in isolation. Now, he was at the center of a legal battle that would determine not just Sarah's future, but his own sense of who he was and what he stood for. The evening before the trial, Mr. Brennan called a final meeting at his office. Caleb, Sarah, Doc Hayes, Mr. Culver, and several other key witnesses gathered in the cramped space, reviewing their testimonies one last time. "Remember," Brennan said, looking at each of them in turn, "Blake will try to rattle you to make you angry or defensive. Don't give him that satisfaction. Answer his questions calmly and honestly. If you don't know something, say so. If you're not certain about a detail, admit it. Credibility is everything in a courtroom." Sarah sat quietly through most of the meeting, her hands folded in her lap, the wooden cross her father had made visible at her throat. She'd worn it every day since Caleb had given it back to her. A tangible connection to the man she'd barely had time to know. "Sarah," Brennan said gently, "how are you holding up?" "I'm scared," she admitted. "Elena's lawyer's going to try to destroy me on that stand. He's going to paint me as a liar and a fraud. And part of me wonders, what if the jury believes him? What if they decide I'm just some opportunist trying to steal what isn't mine? Then we'll have lost the legal battle, but not the moral one," Caleb said quietly. "Because we'll know the truth and so will you. That's not much comfort." "No," he agreed. "But sometimes it's all we have. I've learned that the hard way." After the others left, Caleb walked Sarah back to the Pattersons' house. The night was cool and clear, with stars scattered across the sky like silver coins. They walked in comfortable silence for most of the way, but as they neared the house, Sarah stopped and turned to face him. "Whatever happens tomorrow," she said, "I want you to know how grateful I am. You didn't have to help me. You could have stayed out of it, minded your own business, kept your head down, but you didn't. You stood up for me when no one else would. That means more than I can express. Your father was a good man. He deserved better than what Elena gave him, and you deserved better than being treated like you were nothing." Caleb met her eyes. "I've done things I'm ashamed of, Sarah, things I can't undo or make right. But helping you, standing up for what's right this time, that's something I can do. Something I needed to do for my own sake as much as yours because of what happened during the war. Yes. And because I've spent too many years watching injustice happen and doing nothing, I couldn't do it again. Not this time." Sarah reached out and squeezed his hand briefly. "Thank you, Caleb, for seeing me, for believing me, for fighting for me. Thank you for trusting me." She went inside, and Caleb stood on the street for a moment longer, looking up at the stars and thinking about tomorrow. The trial would determine so much, not just who owned the Hartwell Ranch, but whether justice could prevail against wealth and power, whether truth could overcome carefully constructed lies, whether a system designed to protect the rich and influential could also protect someone like Sarah, who had nothing but the truth on her side. He walked back to his boarding house. He'd moved off the ranch after Elena's release and found sleep difficult to come by. His mind kept turning over testimony and evidence, looking for weaknesses Elena's lawyer might exploit, ways their case could fall apart. Around midnight, he gave up trying to sleep and went for a walk through the quiet streets of Silver Ridge. The town looked peaceful in the moonlight, almost innocent. But Caleb knew better now. He'd seen what lay beneath the surface. The compromises people made, the injustices they tolerated, the way they looked away from cruelty, because confronting it was uncomfortable or dangerous. He found himself at the cemetery on the edge of town, standing before Thomas Hartwell's grave. Someone had been tending it. Fresh flowers sat in a jar beside the headstone, and the grass around the plot was neatly trimmed. Sarah probably paying her respects to the father she'd barely known. "I hope we're doing right by you," Caleb said quietly to the grave. "I hope this is what you would have wanted." The stone offered no answer, of course. But standing there in the silence, Caleb felt a sense of purpose settle over him. Whatever happened tomorrow, whatever the outcome of the trial, he would know he'd done everything in his power to honor Thomas's wishes and protect his daughter. That would have to be enough. The morning of the trial dawned bright and clear. Caleb dressed carefully in the one good suit he owned, purchased years ago for occasions that never seemed to arrive. He met Mr. Brennan outside the courthouse at 8 an hour before proceedings were set to begin. Already a crowd had gathered. News of the trial had spread throughout the territory, drawing spectators from miles around. James Mitchell stood near the courthouse steps, notebook in hand, observing everything. Other reporters had come too, from Denver and Colorado Springs. "And as far as Santa Fe, quite a circus," Brennan observed dryly. "Will that help or hurt us? Depends on the outcome. If we win, public attention will make it harder for Elena to appeal or manipulate the verdict. If we lose, it will be a very public defeat." Sarah arrived with Mrs. Patterson looking pale but composed. She wore a simple but elegant dress that Mrs. Patterson had helped her make, and her dark hair was pulled back neatly. She looked like what she was, a respectable young woman, educated and refined, nothing like the downtrodden servant Elena had tried to make her. Elena arrived in her carriage at 8, accompanied by her lawyer, Harrison Blake. She was dressed in black silk, the widow's weeds she'd worn since Thomas's death, playing the role of grieving wife one last time. Her mahogany cane gleamed in the morning sun, and she carried herself with absolute confidence. When Elena's eyes met Sarah's across the courthouse steps, her expression remained neutral. But Caleb saw something flicker there. Hatred, perhaps, or fear that her carefully constructed world was about to collapse. All rise for the Honorable Judge William Carmichael. The courtroom was packed, every seat filled and people standing along the walls. Caleb sat in the front row behind the prosecution table, where Mr. Brennan had arranged their documents and evidence. Sarah sat beside Brennan, her hands folded in her lap, her expression calm, despite what must be churning inside her. Judge Carmichael entered a heavy-set man in his 60s with white hair and sharp eyes. He'd presided over Silver Ridge's court for 15 years, and his reputation was mixed. Some said he was fair. Others said he favored those who could afford to influence him. Today would reveal which assessment was accurate. "This court is now in session," Carmichael said, settling into his chair. "We are here to consider criminal charges against Mrs. Elena Hartwell, murder in the first degree of her late husband, Thomas Hartwell, fraud in the matter of his will and estate, and conspiracy to commit murder against Miss Sarah Hartwell. How does the defendant plead?" Harrison Blake stood smooth and confident. "Not guilty on all counts, Your Honor." "Very well, Mr. Brennan, you may present your opening statement." Brennan rose, and Caleb noticed his hands were steady despite the pressure. The old lawyer looked at the jury, 12 men from Silver Ridge and the surrounding area, farmers and shopkeepers and ranch hands who would decide Sarah's fate, and began to speak. "Gentlemen of the jury, this case is about 3 things: greed, murder, and the theft of a daughter's inheritance. Thomas Hartwell was a good man who built a successful ranch through honest work. When he died 6 months ago, supposedly of natural causes, his widow Elena inherited everything, or so it appeared." Brennan paused, letting his words sink in. "But the truth is far darker. Thomas Hartwell was murdered, poisoned by his wife with arsenic because he had changed his will to leave his estate to his daughter, Sarah. Elena destroyed the legitimate will, forged a new one, leaving everything to herself, and then forced Sarah into servitude to keep her silent." He gestured to the evidence table. "We will prove all of this through documents, through testimony, and through the testimony of Sarah herself. We will show you that Elena Hartwell is not the grieving widow she pretends to be. She is a murderer and a fraud who will do anything to maintain her stolen wealth and power. And we will ask you to render the only verdict that justice demands. Guilty on all counts." Brennan sat down. Harrison Blake immediately stood for his opening statement. "Gentlemen," he said, his voice carrying easily through the courtroom, "what Mr. Brennan has just described is a fascinating story, but that's all it is. A story, a narrative constructed by a young woman who came to Silver Ridge with nothing and saw an opportunity to claim an inheritance she has no right to. Yes, Sarah claims to be Thomas Hartwell's daughter. But where is the proof? A few letters that could have been forged. A photograph that could be of anyone. The word of a mountain man with a violent past and a guilty conscience." Blake moved to stand directly in front of the jury. "The prosecution wants you to believe that Elena Hartwell, a respected member of this community, murdered her husband in cold blood. But they have no proof, no witness to the alleged poisoning. No confession, no evidence beyond circumstantial claims and illegal searches. What they have is conjecture, speculation, and the testimony of people with their own reasons to lie." He returned to his table. "We will show you that Elena Hartwell is innocent, that Thomas died of natural causes attended by his doctor, that his will was legitimate and properly executed, that Sarah is an opportunist who saw a chance to steal a fortune and took it. And we will ask you to see through this elaborate fraud and render the only just verdict, not guilty. Both sides had drawn their battle lines. Now came the hard part, proving their cases through testimony and evidence, fighting for every point, every concession, every moment of doubt or certainty in the jury's minds. Mr. Brennan, Judge Carmichael said, "Call your first witness." The prosecution calls Miss Sarah Hartwell to the stand. Sarah stood, smoothed her dress, and walked to the witness stand with her head high. She was sworn in, her voice steady as she promised to tell the truth. And then she sat and faced the courtroom full of strangers who would judge whether she was a victim or a fraud. Caleb found himself holding his breath. Everything depended on this moment, on whether Sarah could tell her story convincingly, on whether the jury would see the truth in her words, on whether justice would prevail or wealth and power would triumph once again. The trial had begun, and in the next few hours, Sarah Hartwell's entire future would be decided. "We're losing," Sarah said quietly. "I can see it in the jury's faces. They don't believe me. They're uncertain," Brennan corrected. "That's different from disbelief. We still have witnesses to call tomorrow, including you, Mr. Stone. Your testimony about finding the will and the poison could be decisive." "Blake will tear me apart," Caleb said. "He'll bring up my past. Paint me as a violent man with a guilty conscience trying to redeem himself through false heroics." "Let him," Brennan said. "Tell the truth about your past. Own it. Show the jury you're not hiding anything. That kind of honesty can be powerful." The next morning, Caleb took the stand. He was sworn in and sat facing the crowded courtroom, aware of every eye on him. Brennan led him through his testimony, how he'd come to work at the Hartwell Ranch, what he'd observed regarding Elena's treatment of Sarah, the investigation he'd conducted finding the strongbox, discovering the poison. "Why did you involve yourself in this matter?" Brennan asked. "You were just a hired hand. You could have kept your head down and stayed out of it." Caleb took a breath. "I spent too much of my life looking away from injustice. I watched a young woman being abused and humiliated, and I couldn't ignore it. When I learned the truth, that she was Thomas Hartwell's daughter and Elena had stolen her inheritance, I had to act. Some things are worth standing up for. Thank you, Mr. Stone." Brennan sat down and Harrison Blake rose. "Mr. Stone," Blake began, his voice friendly, "you mentioned looking away from injustice in the past. Let's talk about that. You served in the cavalry during the war, correct?" "I did." "And you were present at an incident involving a Shoshone village in 1864? "I was." "Please describe what happened." Caleb met Blake's eyes steadily. "My unit received orders to attack a village believed to be harboring hostile warriors. When we arrived, we found mostly women, children, and elderly people. Some of the men under my command, against orders from some officers but encouraged by others, began killing indiscriminately. I tried to stop it. I pulled 3 children from a burning lodge and got them to safety. After the attack, I testified against the commanding officer responsible. The testimony ended my military career, but you were there when the killing started. You were part of the initial attack. I was following orders I believed to be legitimate. When I realized what was really happening, I acted to stop it. How many people died in that attack, Mr. Stone?" "Too many. More than 40, mostly women and children." Blake let that number hang in the air. "And now you're here asking this jury to believe you're a man of conscience and integrity. But you have blood on your hands, don't you?" "I do," Caleb said quietly. "I carry it every day. And that's exactly why I couldn't look away from what was happening to Sarah. I've spent 10 years trying to atone for one terrible day, standing up for her. That's part of that atonement. Or you're a man with a violent past trying to manipulate this court through false testimony and manufactured evidence. No, everything I've said is true. Is it? You admit to illegally searching Elena Hartwell's private chambers. You admit to taking documents from her property without permission. You admit to conspiring with Sarah Hartwell to build a case against Elena. Why should this jury believe anything you say? Because I have no reason to lie. I'm not asking for money or property or recognition. I'm asking for justice for a young woman who deserves it, and for a good man who was murdered by his wife." Blake smiled. "Or you're asking this court to believe an elaborate fantasy created by a fraud and supported by a man desperate to ease his guilty conscience." "Believe what you want," Caleb said, "but the evidence is real. The will is real. The poison is real. And Sarah Hartwell is Thomas Hartwell's daughter. Whether you want to accept it or not, we'll let the jury decide that." Blake returned to his seat. No further questions. The afternoon brought Elelena's testimony. She took the stand dressed in black, her expression one of dignified sorrow. Blake led her through her version of events. How she'd married Thomas out of love. How she'd managed the ranch after his death. How Sarah had appeared with wild claims and forged documents. "Mrs. Hartwell," Blake said gently, "did you poison your husband?" "Of course not. I loved Thomas. His death devastated me." "Did you forge his will?" "No. The will presented to the court is legitimate. Thomas signed it of his own free will. The poison found in your chambers." "Can you explain it?" "I can't. I'd never seen that bottle before. Someone must have planted it there. Probably Mr. Stone when he illegally searched my rooms." "What about Sarah's claims that she's Thomas's daughter?" Elena's expression grew sad. "I believe Sarah genuinely believes she's Thomas's daughter, but Thomas told me his daughter died years ago back east. This young woman has fabricated documents and created an identity based on research and lies. I actually feel sorry for her. She must be very troubled to go to such lengths. It was a masterful performance." Elena appeared reasonable, sympathetic, and believable. When Brennan rose to cross-examine her, the task seemed nearly impossible. "Mrs. Hartwell," Brennan began, "you say you loved your husband. Did you know he'd changed his will to leave his estate to Sarah?" "He never changed his will." "The will I presented is the only legitimate one. Mr. Culver testified that he overheard you discussing plans to eliminate Sarah. How do you explain that?" Mr. Culver misunderstood a frustrated conversation about a difficult employee. He interpreted metaphor as literal threat because he was angry about our failed courtship. "The servants at the ranch testified about your cruel treatment of Sarah. Were they all lying?" "They misinterpreted firm management as cruelty. I ran a household the way any woman of my station would. Thomas Hartwell's symptoms before death were consistent with arsenic poisoning." "Isn't it true you poisoned him?" "No, Thomas died of natural causes. The doctor was there. He saw everything." Brennan tried for another hour to break through Elena's carefully constructed defenses, but she had an answer for everything. She was too practiced, too prepared. By the time she left the stand, Caleb could see doubt in the jury's faces again. The final day of the trial brought closing arguments. Brennan spoke passionately about justice and truth, about a daughter's right to her inheritance, about the pattern of evidence that pointed to Elena's guilt. Blake countered with reasonable doubt, with questions about Sarah's identity, with alternative explanations for every piece of evidence. Judge Carmichael instructed the jury on the law, on the burden of proof, on how to evaluate testimony and evidence. Then the 12 men filed out to deliberate. The wait was excruciating. Hours passed. Caleb sat with Sarah and Mr. Brennan in a small room adjacent to the courthouse, saying little, each lost in their own thoughts. Sarah fingered the wooden cross at her throat, her lips moving in silent prayer. Brennan reviewed his notes compulsively, as if he might find some argument he'd missed, some point that could tip the scales. Finally, after nearly 5 hours, word came. The jury had reached a verdict. They filed back into the courtroom, their faces carefully neutral. Caleb tried to read something in their expressions, but found nothing. Sarah sat beside him, her hand gripping his so tightly he could feel her pulse racing as the jury reached a verdict. Judge Carmichael asked. The foreman, a middle-aged farmer named Henderson, stood. "We have, Your Honor." "What say you?" Henderson looked at Elena, then at Sarah. The moment stretched out, endless and terrible. Then he spoke. "On the charge of murder in the first degree, we find the defendant, Elena Hartwell, guilty." The courtroom erupted. Sarah gasped, her free hand flying to her mouth. Elena went white, then red, her composure finally shattering completely. Blake was on his feet immediately, objecting, demanding a new trial. Order. Carmichael's gavel cracked down. I will have order in this court. On the charge of fraud, Henderson continued when the room quieted. We find the defendant guilty. On the charge of conspiracy to commit murder, we find the defendant guilty. Sarah was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. Caleb found his own eyes wet and didn't care who saw. Blake was on his feet immediately, objecting, demanding a new trial. Order. Carmichael's gavel cracked down. I will have order in this court. Elena Hartwell, Judge Carmichael said, his voice heavy with the weight of what came next. You have been found guilty on all charges by a jury of your peers. I hereby sentence you to life imprisonment in the territorial prison. You will be taken into custody immediately and transported under guard. May God have mercy on your soul. Elena stood, and for a moment Caleb thought she might collapse. But she gathered herself one final time, drew herself up to her full height, and spoke clearly enough for everyone to hear. This isn't over. I have friends, connections, resources. I will appeal. I will fight this. And when I'm free, and I will be free, every person who testified against me will regret it. Take her away, Carmichael said wearily. As the deputies led Elena from the courtroom, she looked back once at Sarah. The hatred in her eyes was pure and undiluted. But there was something else there, too. Defeat. The knowledge that her careful plans had crumbled, that her power had been stripped away, that she'd lost everything she'd fought so ruthlessly to keep. Outside the courthouse, a crowd had gathered. News of the verdict spread quickly, and the reaction was mixed, some cheering, others muttering darkly about the conviction, but most people simply looked relieved that the ordeal was over. James Mitchell approached Caleb with his notebook. Mr. Stone, do you have a statement for the press? Justice was served today, Caleb said simply. A good man's wishes were honored, and his daughter reclaimed what was rightfully hers. That's all that matters. What will you do now? Caleb looked at Sarah, who stood surrounded by well-wishers. I expect I'll help Miss Hartwell get settled on her ranch. Beyond that, he shrugged. I haven't thought that far ahead. One more question. Do you feel redeemed now after what happened during the war? Caleb considered that redemption isn't something you achieve in a single moment. It's something you work toward every day through every choice you make. Today was one choice. Tomorrow there'll be another. That's how it works. He walked away before Mitchell could ask anything else, moving through the crowd towards Sarah. She saw him coming and smiled through her tears. We won, she said. Caleb, we actually won. You won, he corrected gently. You stood up, told your truth, and the jury believed you. I couldn't have done it without you. Maybe, but you did it. That's what matters. Mr. Brennan joined them, looking exhausted but satisfied. Miss Hartwell, we need to discuss the estate transfer. There are legal procedures to follow, documents to file, but the Hartwell Ranch is yours now. Your father's will has been validated by this verdict. Sarah nodded, still dazed. I understand. Thank you, Mr. Brennan, for everything. As the sun set over Silver Ridge, casting long shadows across the courthouse square, Caleb felt something shift inside him. Not redemption, exactly. Not peace, but perhaps the beginning of both. He'd stood up when it mattered. He'd fought for justice against wealth and power, and he'd won. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. For now it was enough. 3 months passed. Autumn settled over the territory in shades of gold and red, and the first snows dusted the high peaks where Caleb had once lived in isolation. But he wasn't in the mountains now. He was at the Hartwell Ranch helping Sarah transform it from the place of pain it had been into something that honored her father's memory. The changes were both practical and symbolic. Sarah had kept Rosa and Mrs. Chen on staff, giving them raises and treating them with the respect Elena never had. She'd let Dutch and several other hands go, replacing them with workers who understood that fairness and decency mattered more than fear. She'd opened the ranch books to public audit, showing that she had nothing to hide. and she'd established a fund to help other women in difficult situations, a living memorial to the months she'd spent as Elelenena's prisoner. The mahogany cane that had been Elelenena's symbol of power sat in a corner of the barn, now gathering dust. Sarah had considered burning it, but decided instead to let it fade into irrelevance. Some things deserve to be forgotten rather than destroyed. On a clear October morning, Caleb found Sarah at her father's grave. She'd been coming here often, sometimes talking to Thomas about her decisions, sometimes just sitting in silence. Today she was kneeling beside the headstone, placing fresh flowers in the jar she kept there. "I've been thinking," she said as Caleb approached, "about what comes next for the ranch." "For everything. The ranch is running well. The legal matters are settled. Elelenena's appeals have been denied. She'll spend the rest of her life in prison. I've done everything I set out to do." She stood, brushing dirt from her skirt. "So now I'm wondering what I'm supposed to do with the rest of my life." Caleb leaned against the fence surrounding the small cemetery plot. "Your father built something good here. You could keep building on it. Make it even better." "I know, and I will." But she paused, searching for words. "I spent so long fighting just to survive, just to reclaim what was mine, that I didn't think much about what would come after. Now that I have it, now that I've won, I feel a bit lost." "That's natural. You've been focused on one goal for months now. You need to find new ones." Sarah smiled slightly. "You sound like you're speaking from experience." "Maybe I am. I spent 10 years in the mountains telling myself I was seeking peace. But really, I was just hiding. It wasn't until I had something to fight for, someone to fight for, that I felt like I was actually living again." "And now what will you do?" It was the question Caleb had been asking himself for weeks. His work at the ranch was essentially complete. Sarah had offered him the foreman position permanently with good pay and a place to stay. It was more stability than he'd had in years. But something in him still felt restless, unfinished. "I don't know yet," he admitted. "Part of me wants to go back to the mountains, but I'm not sure that's where I belong anymore." "You belong here," Sarah said quietly. "If you want to. This ranch, it's as much yours now as mine. You fought for it, bled for it in your own way. Father would have wanted you to stay, and so do I." Caleb met her eyes and saw something there that made his chest tighten. Not just gratitude or friendship, but something deeper. Something that had been growing between them through all the danger and struggle. Something neither of them had had time to examine or name. "Sarah," he began. "I know what you're going to say," she interrupted gently. "That you're too old for me or too damaged or that it wouldn't be proper. But I don't care about any of that. I care that you're the only person who saw me when everyone else looked through me. That you stood up for me when it would have been easier to walk away. That you're a good man trying to do better. And that's worth more than a perfect past. I'm not a good man. Not entirely. None of us are entirely anything. We're all just doing the best we can with what we've been given." She took a step closer. "Stay, Caleb. Not because you owe me anything or because you're still trying to atone for the past. Stay because you want to. Because you're building something here too. A future, a life." Caleb looked past her at the ranch, the house his friend Thomas had built, the land that stretched to the mountains, the life that was taking shape here. Then he looked back at Sarah, at this remarkable young woman who'd endured so much and come through it with her strength intact. "I'll stay," he said. "For as long as you'll have me." Sarah's smile was like sunrise. "Then we'll make something good here. Something my father would be proud of." They walked back to the ranch house together, talking about plans for the winter, about improvements they wanted to make, about the life they were building. Around them the land lay peaceful in the autumn light, free at last from the shadow Elelenena had cast over it. That evening, as the sun set behind the western mountains, Sarah and Caleb stood together on the porch of the main house. Rosa brought out coffee and fresh bread, then left them alone with knowing looks and a satisfied smile. Some things didn't need to be spoken aloud to be understood. "Tell me about your father," Caleb said. "The real stories, the ones that matter. I never got to know him, but I'd like to understand the man who built all this." So Sarah told him stories about Thomas's early days in the territory, about building the ranch from nothing, about his first wife and their brief happiness before things fell apart. She told him about the letters Thomas had written over the years, about his regrets and his hopes, about his determination to do right by his daughter, even when miles and circumstances kept them apart. He was a good man who made mistakes. Sarah concluded he married Elena thinking she'd be a proper partner for a ranch wife, and he didn't see the darkness in her until it was too late. But even then, even when he realized what she was, he tried to make things right. He changed his will. He called me home. He made plans to give me what should have been mine all along. He died before he could see it through, but he tried. That's what matters. He'd be proud of you, Caleb said, of how you fought, how you survived, how you honored his wishes. I hope so. Sarah looked out at the land her father had loved. Sometimes I feel him here, like he's watching, making sure I'm taking care of the place properly, making sure I'm happy. Are you happy? Sarah considered the question seriously. I'm getting there. For so long I was just focused on survival and justice. Now I have both and I'm learning what comes after. Building a life, not just fighting for one. It's harder than I expected, but it's good. And having you here makes it easier. They sat in comfortable silence as darkness fell and stars began to appear overhead. The same stars Thomas had looked at while building his dreams. The same stars that had witnessed both the cruelty of Elena's reign and the justice that had finally ended it. In the distance, a coyote called. Caleb had heard that sound countless times in the mountains, had found it lonely and haunting. But here, sitting beside Sarah, with the warm glow of lamplight behind them, and the promise of tomorrow ahead, the sound seemed different. Not lonely, but free, wild, and alive, and full of possibility. You know what Father used to say? Sarah asked, breaking the silence. He said the West was a place for second chances, for people who'd made mistakes elsewhere and wanted to start fresh. He believed everyone deserved that opportunity to be judged by what they do now, not what they did before. Wise man he was, and he was right. You proved that. You came here carrying guilt from the war, trying to hide from your past. But when it mattered, when someone needed help, you stood up. You became the man you wanted to be instead of the man you'd been. I'm still working on that. We all are. That's what life is. Constantly working to be better than we were yesterday. She turned to look at him directly. And you are better, Caleb. You're a good man. Let yourself believe that. Caleb wanted to argue, to list all the reasons he didn't deserve her faith or her regard. But he found he couldn't because maybe she was right. Maybe redemption wasn't a destination you reached, but a direction you traveled. Maybe it was enough to keep trying, keep choosing better, keep standing up for what was right. I'll try, he said finally. That's all I can promise. That's all anyone can promise. The weeks that followed settled into a comfortable rhythm. Caleb took on more responsibilities at the ranch, working alongside the hands during the day and spending evenings with Sarah, talking through decisions and plans. They developed an easy partnership built on mutual respect and growing affection. The townspeople of Silver Ridge, who had watched the trial with fascination, now watched this development with approval. Some whispered about propriety and appropriate mourning periods, but most saw what was obvious. Two people who'd been through darkness together were building something good in the— My way, stubborn. All true, Clara agreed. But you're also my father, and I'd like the chance to know you better. They embraced, and Silas felt another piece of the old weight fall away. This was what healing looked like. Not dramatic transformation, but small choices made daily to connect rather than isolate, to trust rather than fear, to build rather than hide. Over the next few weeks, as winter deepened, Silas and Clara made plans. He would officially transfer ownership of the cabin to a young couple who wanted to homestead in the high country. People who'd appreciate the solitude but wouldn't be running from anything. Clara was expanding the boarding house, adding rooms on the second floor, and Silas would help with the construction. He'd also agreed to teach survival skills to young men in town. passing on knowledge gained from 3 decades on the frontier. Running Deer had visited twice, bringing updates on the protected status of the canyon and surrounding territory. The Cheyenne Nation had successfully petitioned for federal recognition of the entire area as sacred land, ensuring that Marcus's death and the battle they'd fought would have lasting meaning. A memorial would be erected in the spring, honoring both Marcus Reed and Sarah Cord as victims of greed who'd ultimately helped protect something precious. On a clear day in late December, Silas and Clara rode up to the mountain one last time. They wanted to see the cabin before winter made it inaccessible to properly say goodbye to that chapter of life. The young couple who'd be taking over in spring had asked if there was anything Silas wanted to keep, and he'd made a short list: Sarah's few remaining possessions, some tools he'd made himself, the letters Clara had sent that he'd never opened. The cabin looked smaller than ever, almost swallowed by snow and forest. They dismounted and went inside, and Silas was struck by how empty it felt. Not physically empty, his belongings were still there, exactly as he'd left them, but emotionally, spiritually empty. The life force that had sustained him here for 30 years was gone, moved elsewhere. Clara found the box of her letters in the corner, protected from moisture by oilcloth. She opened one, read it silently, then looked at him. "I was 12 when I wrote this. Telling you about school, about friends, about missing mother. Why didn't you read them?" "Because I was a coward," Silas said simply. Every letter was a reminder of what I'd given up, of the choice I'd made to be alone rather than risk loving and losing again. I told myself I was protecting you from my grief. But really, I was just protecting myself. At least you can admit it now. They spent an hour going through things, deciding what to keep and what to leave for the new owners. Silas took Sarah's locket, which Clara had given back to him, saying it should stay in the family. He took his hunting knife, the one with the carved handle, because it was the first thing he'd made on this mountain and represented the skills that had kept him alive. And he took the letters, all of them, promising Clara he'd read every one. Before they left, Silas stood in the doorway, looking back at the single room that had been his entire world. "Thank you," he said quietly. "Thank you," Clara asked. "For what?" "For being my prison when I needed one. For keeping me safe while I learned how to live with loss. For being here when I was ready to face what I've been running from." He closed the door gently. "But I don't need you anymore." They rode down the mountain as the sun was setting, painting the snow in shades of gold and pink. Behind them, the cabin stood silent and waiting for new stories. Ahead, Redemption Creek glowed with lamplight and the promise of warmth and community. That night, sitting in Clara's parlor with the fire crackling and the snow falling softly outside, Silas finally opened the letters. He read them chronologically, watching his daughter grow up through her words. 12-year-old Clara describing her school lessons. 14-year-old Clara asking advice about a boy she liked. 16-year-old Clara announcing she'd stopped writing because clearly he didn't care. Each letter was a stab to the heart, but also a gift. They showed him the person she'd become without him. Strong and capable and resilient. They showed him what he'd missed, but also that she'd survived his absence. When he finished the last letter, Clara was watching him. "Well, I'm sorry," he said, "for all of it. For not being brave enough to read these when they came. For not being the father you deserved. I know." She paused. "But you're here now. That has to count for something." "It does," Doc Whitmore said. He'd arrived while Silas was reading, had been sitting quietly in the corner. "Redemption isn't about the past. It's about what you do with the present." Over the following months, as winter slowly gave way to spring, Silas built a new life. He attended the memorial service when it was erected at the canyon, a simple stone marker naming Marcus Reed and Sarah Cord with an inscription in both English and Cheyenne, honoring their role in protecting sacred ground. 2 bears blessed the site, and townspeople came to pay respects. Many of them former Crane employees who'd found better work and wanted to honor the truth that had freed them from fear. Silas and Clara's relationship continued to deepen. They had disagreements. She was as stubborn as he was, after all. but they worked through them with honesty rather than silence. He taught her to track and hunt, skills she'd never learned growing up. She taught him to read beyond basic literacy, opening worlds of knowledge he'd never explored. They were creating something new, not replacing what was lost, but building beside it. On a warm day in May, almost a year after the bullet had ruptured and changed everything, Silas sat on the porch of the boarding house, watching life happen on Redemption Creek's main street. Children played, merchants conducted business, people greeted each other with the ease of community. He was part of this now, woven into the fabric of town life in ways he'd never imagined possible. Clara joined him, settling into the chair beside his. "Penny, for your thoughts?" "I was thinking about that bullet," he said. "How it sat inside me for 23 years, causing pain, but also, in a strange way, keeping me alive. If it had killed me in 1868, none of this would have happened. Marcus's truth would have died with us. The Cranes would have gotten away with everything. So, you're saying it was meant to be?" "No, I'm saying that sometimes the things we think are destroying us are actually preparing us for what comes next. The bullet forced me down from the mountain. The wound forced me to your door. The pain forced me to face what I've been running from. None of it was pleasant, but all of it was necessary." Clara took his hand. "Mother would be proud of you, of us, of what we've built from all that pain." "She would," Silas agreed. And for the first time in 16 years, thinking about Sarah didn't bring crushing guilt. It brought gratitude for the time they'd had. Acceptance of the loss and recognition that honoring her memory meant living fully, not hiding away. As the sun set over Redemption Creek, painting the sky in brilliant colors, Silas Cordman, survivor. Father sat with his daughter and felt something he'd forgotten was possible. Contentment. The weight he'd carried for so long was finally completely gone. Not because the past had changed, but because he'd learned to carry it differently. Shared among people who cared. Integrated into a life that had room for both joy and sorrow. The bullet was gone. The truth was known. Justice had been served. And most importantly, a father and daughter who'd been separated by grief and pride had found their way back to each other. The story that had begun with an ambush in a canyon decades ago had ended not with vengeance or violence, but with healing and hope. Silas looked at Clara, at the town that had become his home, at the mountains that would always be part of him, and understood finally what Marcus had tried to tell him in that last journal entry. The weight you carry will kill you if you don't learn to set it down. He'd carried a bullet for 23 years and guilt for even longer, but he'd finally learned to set both down, to let others help bear the burden, to accept that strength wasn't about suffering alone. And in that acceptance, in that simple act of letting go, Silas Cord found something more valuable than any silver vein. He found peace, light. Mr. Brennan stopped by one afternoon with papers for Sarah to sign. Final legal documents, transferring full ownership of the estate. He stayed for dinner, regaling them with stories about other cases he'd handled over the years, carefully avoiding any mention of Ele La Nena or the trial. "You've done well with this place," he told Sarah as he prepared to leave. Thomas would be pleased. He always said the land would flourish under the right care. He meant you even back then. He knew you had the strength for it. After he left, Sarah stood at the window looking out at the ranch that was now fully, legally, undeniably hers. The Hartwell Ranch passed from father to daughter as it should have been from the beginning. "It's strange," she said. "I fought so hard for this, and now that I have it, it feels both exactly right and completely surreal." Caleb came to stand beside her. "That's because it's real now. Not just a dream or a goal, but actual life. Real and solid and yours." "Ours," she corrected gently. "This place is ours, Caleb, if you'll accept it." He looked at her. This strong, brave woman who'd survived cruelty and fought for justice and still found room in her heart for kindness. "I accept," he said, "on one condition." "What's that?" "That we hang a new sign at the entrance. Something that honors your father but looks forward to the future." Sarah smiled. "What did you have in mind?" "The Hartwell Ranch," he said. Established 1853, rebuilt 1873. Rebuilt, Sarah repeated, trying out the word. Yes, I like that, because that's what we're doing, isn't it? Not just continuing what Father built, but rebuilding it into something new, something better, something honest, Caleb added. A place where people are judged by their character, not their social standing, where hard work and decency matter more than money or power. A place my father would recognize, Sarah finished, even if it looks different than when he left it. They commissioned the new sign from Hank Morrison, who crafted it with care and pride. When they hung it at the entrance to the ranch a week later, half the town turned out to witness the moment. It was in its way a celebration, not just of Sarah's victory in court, but of justice served, of truth prevailing, of the possibility that people could be more than their worst moments. As winter approached and the first real snows began to fall, Sarah and Caleb stood together on the porch one evening, watching the white blanket cover the land. The ranch was ready for winter, stock gathered, hay stored, buildings weatherproofed. They'd done good work, all of them, preparing for the hard months ahead. "Do you ever think about her?" Sarah asked quietly. "La nena sometimes," Caleb admitted. "I wonder if she regrets what she did. If prison has changed her at all. Mr. Brennan says she's still fighting her appeals, still claiming she's innocent, that we framed her. Some people never admit the truth, even to themselves. I almost feel sorry for her. Sarah said she had so much wealth, position, a life most people would envy, and she threw it all away for greed and cruelty. What a waste." The waste was Thomas's death. "Elela Nena's imprisonment is justice, I know, but I can't help thinking about all the years she'll spend in that cell, knowing she destroyed her own life." Sarah shook her head. "I don't want to end up like that. So focused on winning, on having, on controlling that I forget what actually matters." "You won't," Caleb said with certainty. "You're nothing like her. You fought for what was yours by right, not to steal what belonged to someone else. There's a difference." They stood in silence for a while, watching the snow fall. Then Sarah spoke again, her voice soft but determined. "I want to make this ranch a place of healing, not just for me but for others. People who've been hurt, who need a fresh start, who deserve a second chance like Father believed in, like you needed when you came down from the mountains. That's a good dream. Will you help me make it real?" Caleb looked at her, at the hope and determination in her eyes, and felt something in his chest loosen, a burden he'd carried for so long that he'd forgotten what it felt like to be without it. Not redemption, not yet, but forgiveness, perhaps, of himself, of his past, of all the things he couldn't change. "Yes," he said, "I'll help you for as long as you want me here." Sarah took his hand, her fingers cold from the winter air, but her grip warm and sure. "Then we'll build something together, something good and lasting, something worthy of my father's memory." They stood together on the porch as darkness fell and snow continued to blanket the land. Behind them, the ranch house glowed with lamplight and warmth. Ahead of them, the future stretched out uncertain, but full of possibility. In the mountains, Caleb had sought peace and found only isolation. Here, standing beside Sarah with the weight of the past slowly lifting from his shoulders, he was beginning to understand that peace wasn't something you found in solitude. It was something you built with others through shared struggle and mutual respect, and the daily choice to stand for what was right. The West was indeed a place for second chances. Thomas Hartwell had believed that, and he'd been right. Caleb had come here carrying the weight of old sins, and through helping Sarah reclaim her inheritance, he'd begun to find a way forward, not forgetting the past, but no longer letting it define every step. As stars emerged between the falling snow, Caleb thought about Thomas Hartwell lying beneath his headstone on the hill, about the good man whose death had started all this. He hoped Thomas could see them now, see his daughter strong and free, see the ranch continuing in hands that would honor it. And he hoped Thomas would approve of the mountain man who'd stayed to help, who'd found in this fight something he'd been seeking for 10 years without knowing it. Not redemption or forgiveness from others, but the chance to be part of something bigger than his own guilt and regret. A life lived in service to justice and truth and simple human decency. It was enough, more than enough.